September 10th at 7 p.m. We need to approve the agenda, but before we approve the agenda, we need to add an executive at the end for legal, and we're going to move the National Forest to the beginning of the board liaison updates. Okay, so
moved.
I'll second that.
I think we got one more addition. Old business we need to
oh yes, we need
Priscilla.
that.
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
resignation of Priscilla. Yep. Okay. So motion's been made and seconded. Mike,
Aye.
Jamie,
Aye.
Angie, aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, so approval of the agenda, approval of the minutes of 8:27.
Wait, before you do the minutes, this is Rebecca. I just want to make sure, because it's part of agenda, I want to announce that shortly before the meeting, Danny Hale from VASA canceled, so he will not be here tonight. I'm going to put him on for the 24th. And also, but I'm still going to speak on the subject to just give some information about what we talked about.
Okay, thank you.
That's so the public knows.
All right, thank you. So where was I? Warrants, and then 4 is the board liaison report. We're gonna move the 660 acres of Green Mountain National Forest proposal up to beginning. Then ATV, VASA, update on town office project, mission statement, Green Mountain Bible Conference land, access to town-owned land and particular uses, grants updates, forensic and external audit updates. And then 5 is transfer station report July and August. Yep, we're gonna take just town report prep on number 6. And Viper license, yep, on number 6. 7 is road report, school buses. 8 is old business, Green Mountain Race Track, set dates for place for the public for meetings of the ATV special election. And Priscilla's resignation.
Correct.
And then executive for legal. Motion,
I'll make a motion.
Second.
any other discussion? Mike,
Aye.
Jamie,
Aye.
Angie, aye. Bob,
Aye.
okay. So, the approval of the minutes of 8:27, has everybody had a chance to read them? Okay, entertain a motion,
I'll make a motion we approve the minutes for 8:27.
Second.
any discussion? Mike,
Aye.
Jamie,
Aye.
Angie, aye. Bob,
Aye.
okay. Warrants. Payroll 8:30 to 9/4 for $8,934.87. Payroll from 9/6 to 9/11 for $7,611.77. Accounts payable 9/4 for $56,099.89. The Caterpillar Financial Wheel Excavator payment 4 of 10 for $22,854.17. Wastewater treatment facility chemicals for $8,918.48. And testing for the landfill study for $7,989.79. Accounts payable for 9/11 in the amount of $14,130.69. Frontlow Associates Town Office Permitting Engineer for $3,545. Wastewater Facility Generator Maintenance for $1,715. Final Wastewater Treatment Facility 2017 Tech Payoff for $2,606.07. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
A second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Mike,
Aye.
Jamie,
Aye.
Angie, I, Bob?
Aye.
Okay. Board liaison report, Rebecca? She's coming. Hang on one second, please.
Okay. So I may have to go periodically and check and see if anyone else needs to come into the meeting.
Okay.
Okay. So I put everything in order in your packets. So if you just go through, in order, here's my report. So as I said, Danny Hale was going to be present to discuss the meeting that I had a conversation with him personally. And then we had a meeting that we discussed with Ethan, who is the Vasa Trails Director, along with Mike Gardner was present, Bob Jarvis was present, and a spokesperson from the local ATV club. And since that meeting, the local ATV club has officially become a Vasa club. And we talked a lot about Vasa involvement and what that brings, and also some statutory changes that have happened at the state level regarding regulation of ATVs in general and Vasa's role in that. So there's a couple important things that everyone needs to understand. And one is that Vasa, as per recent legislation, has been essentially made the DMV of all ATVs in Vermont. They are statutorily responsible for all ATV ridership and all ATV trails. And so now the state actually requires a TAD, or a trail access decal, for all ATVs in the state. And so because they are now mentioned in statute as the official body that regulates all ATV use, they are the only entity that offers kind of insured liability protection for towns and for private landowners who give access to a Vasa trail on their property. They bring enforcement. So they bring liability protection because they're statutorily protected and commanded by the state. I mean, I guess we don't use the word command, but you know what I mean. They have that authority. They bring enforcement, and that was really, I found, to be kind of the most promising aspect of this, is they actually will contract with our local sheriff's department and also Fish and Wildlife to bring large amounts of added enforcement. Now, the more detailed an ATV ordinance is, the more they can enforce. Right? So the more it's clearly defined, they know what they're enforcing. And we very clearly asked them, would you be able to provide enforcement for the late night partying, the drunk driving, things like that the trespassing, because that is one of the biggest complaints that we hear, and we obviously don't want that to continue. And so he said, absolutely, that's what we'll do. It's not just during the hours of your ordinance. It's an as needed basis, right? And so, and we said, well, do you bring it down based on how many people we have here? Is there a ratio of how much enforcement? He goes, no, it's as needed. He said, I've heard that there are some issues down there in that area. And so we would actually be coming down and providing a lot of enforcement to your area. So to me, yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I just want to chime in a little bit now. Just to be clear, when he said your area, he was not talking about Pownal, he was talking about Southern Vermont.
Right.
So, and he did specify Southern Vermont. and these changes are actually pretty new. These are as of July, which is when we were passing the ordinance.
Right. July 1st, I think they took effect, right, Bob?
Yeah, I believe that's correct. So, it's actually, from what I heard, it is really good news. These are things that are going to help us out, and as we talked about it on the board, we didn't believe that the ordinance was going to bring any after-hours enforcement, but it looks like it should have passed, then it will.
Rebecca, I just want to touch on one thing.
Yeah.
To be perfectly clear,
Yes.
the trail access decal.
It's not the town sticker.
It's not the town sticker, correct?
So, right. So that you can talk about the conversation we had regarding that, our idea.
Right. And it's also, you do not need a trail access decal to ride on private property
No.
that you have permission to ride on, but it needs to be written permission
On your person.
on your person So if someone were to come to my piece of property to ride, a
Yes.
friend of mine, they would have to have, they don't need the TAD, they don't need the decal, but they would need written permission on their person
Mhm.
to ride. This is a state statute. This is nothing that pertains to our ordinance. This is all new as of July 1st. So,
So-
that puts a little teeth in that as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Our decal system, our town system is totally separate from the VASA or any club sticker.
And what we realized is that if we're using the VASA sticker system, and we're gonna, obviously we're requiring the TAD, and and then we have a VASA club in town, and that brings all the VASA enforcement. Then our town sticker now becomes about getting the residential sticker because you live on a road that you need to get out of, and also it becomes about a town identification because we wanted to do that for law enforcement for better identification. What's really kind of cool is the club has offered that means that we can sell those tickets for cost or those stickers for cost, as opposed to using them to raise funds for enforcement because VASA brings enforcement. So the club has offered to refund out of membership dues the cost of the town sticker. So it doesn't, it adds an added incentive to go get it. It's
Right.
not going to cost them anything. If they're joining the club and they're joining VASA, they get that refunded to them by the club.
So they will also give certain equipment to the law enforcement to help them.
Yeah, they'll
correct?
give them ATVs and side by sides. They'll help them get out. They'll give them the equipment that they need to get out there.
Yeah.
They'll talk to citizens and the board and find out where the trouble spots are. They will set up sting operations in the middle of the night,
Yep.
looking for people. And they really have. I was speaking to Danny again today when he had to cancel, and he said, we really, really just want, as far as ATVs are concerned, for it to be dialed back a notch. We want to manage these things professionally, respectfully. We want to be out there, make our presence known, and make sure that there's really strong enforcement for these things.
Another thing that he said, and I think you kind of briefly touched on it, but I really want to just make it crystal clear, is that the amount of enforcement provided by VASA to Pownal, and let's face it, that's what we're interested in, okay, it would have absolutely zero bearing on how much income came from Pownal.
Right.
Okay, so if we only brought in $400 worth of VASA stickers to VASA, we would not get just $400 worth of
No.
enforcement. It would be on an as-needed basis, and I want that to be really
Right, because
clear.
it's an incentive. It's an incentive to VASA to have this enforcement to bring
Right.
order into Vermont, because then they maintain their statutory responsibilities.
Right, I just wanted
Right,
that to be really
And the
clear.
way they put it was they send the enforcement to where they need it.
Right, exactly.
And that's state law.
It's-
And, you have less complaints in the northern kingdom. And so they don't do
So they've
as
been
much
doing it
there.
for
And
months.
that gives them the resources to be able to allocate down here.
Right, so it's not income driven, I guess, is what I want to make sure that everybody
Which really
understands.
is great for the town, because we were thinking we need to raise the money for that added enforcement, but instead this is a way to get enforcement that we, quite
Don't have to pay
frankly,
for.
we don't have to pay for, but also we would not have been able to raise that quickly. It brings a lot relief quicker,
Right.
a lot more relief quicker.
So one of the point I want to make sure gets made there, because he was pretty clear about that also. We've heard a lot of talk about, our roads becoming VASA trails and things like that. I'm going to remind everybody that the ordinance opens up our roads so that people can get from their home to a riding location. Does not open this up. They are not open as trails. That is not a correct statement. But the other thing that he made very clear is just because you open it for residents of your town to ride on those roads does not make them a VASA trail. Pownal chooses which roads are and aren't VASA trails, or even on the VASA
They're
map.
on the VASA map. They don't become a trail that can be ridden. They go on the VASA map as connectors for their off-road trails. That's what they are. And that also provides the liability protection for the town on those roads. So there is a benefit to placing them on a VASA map. But we can flesh that out more when he's actually here,
Right.
because I would hate to misstate what is what. So I also I'm hoping that you could dispel, there's a misconception that the roads that are open to residents are for all residents.
Yeah, so I'm gonna, and sorry everybody, I know this is not the proper fast.
But when you're talking, you're allowed to take it down.
But I find it very difficult. So I want to make that very clear, because when we talk about a resident sticker, it's not a Pownal resident, it's a resident of the road. I'm going to use two roads as an example, because the two roads that we marked as resident only are North Pownal, or two of them, as an example, is North Pownal Road and South Stream Road. If I live on South Stream Road, it allows me to use that road to get to another legal road. It does not allow me to ride on North Pownal Road. Only residents of the road are allowed to use those resident-only roads. It's not a
So
North
they can get
Pownal
out
resident,
and come
and
home.
it's so they can get out and they can come home. That's it. It's so that you're not landlocked. So that
So
we're
if you
not.
don't have an ATV rider on one of those roads, there should be no ATVs on those roads.
That's exactly right. And then we tamped it down a little bit more for some of the other roads, saying written permission. But now, if you're riding on land, if you're riding on private property, now per Vermont statute, you have to have written permission anyway. That's
Correct.
not in our ordinance, but it's
Yeah, it is in our
Yeah, it
ordinance.
is in
It's in our ordinance.
it's in our ordinance for specific roads.
Oh,
But if we understood this new statute,
it's
no
all
matter,
private land.
if you're
Right.
coming up to ride on my property, you need
Correct.
a written permission.
Correct.
So I want to make that 100% clear to everybody.
Right. Anything else on ATVs or?
No, I think we that covered it from our meeting pretty well, actually. I think the enforcement was probably the single biggest thing.
I really was hoping, it's the thing that, and I understand, the desire for it, and, that there hasn't been much of it, and that it's hard to find, it's hard to come by, it's expensive, and it seems like a really great opportunity. So, yeah, of course.
I didn't say you were going to move these.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Up front.
You're right. Let me go unmute her and let her in. And I'm sorry, Kate.
I'm sorry, we got one of the big ones out of the way.
Yes. The important one.
Although I have some concerns over it.
Okay,
Okay.
Kate is there. She's unmuted, and I'll just let you speak, Kate. I sent them all of the materials we talked about in advance.
Great. So, hi, I'm Edith Bonner, project manager at the Trust for Public Land. We are a nonprofit conservation organization that helps communities, state agencies, and federal agencies to create new public land. Chris Matrick is also on the line. He is the district ranger for Green Mountain National Forest, and he can speak to some of this project in terms of the future management of the proposed addition to Green Mountain National Forest, as well as other activities that the National Forest has going on with the south of Route 9 work that they've been doing. So the Trust for Public Land is currently partnering with the Green Mountain National Forest to propose the addition of a little more than 2,000 acres to the National Forest in Pownal, Stamford, and Weedsboro from willing sellers. Most of it is owned by Park Forestry. A small amount in Reedsboro is owned by Susan Forden and her family. The majority of these lands are in Stamford, with about 660 acres of the project in northeastern Pownal, which will offer new access to the National Forest from northern Pownal, which currently has no public road access to the forest. Some of the land in Pownal was purchased by Park Forestry from Margaret Lilly, who some of you or many of you may know, who supported Park Forestry's intent to eventually permanently conserve these properties as public land. So we will be applying for a grant from the Federal Land and Water Conservation Fund, which is not funded by taxpayers, but comes from offshore oil and gas leases. And that funding would allow us to acquire the properties from Park Forestry and Susan Forden and transfer them to the National Forest. So as you can see from the map, the conservation of this property will be particularly important to snowmobilers, as it permanently secures a significant section of the Stamford Pond Trail, as well as a section of new snowmobile trail along the Hoosick Ridge in Weedsboro. Acquisition and conservation of this property will ensure permanent public access to the property, as well as conserve a highest priority interior forest block as determined by Vermont Fish and Wildlife. It protects the headwaters of Roaring Branch, as well as a public drinking water supply that supplies the Bennington Water Department, all of which are goals in your most recent town plan. As you can see in one of the documents in your packet, the sale will not have a negative effect on municipal taxes. Deb Brighton did a tax analysis, and it shows that the payment in lieu of taxes from U.S. Forest Service for these 660 acres is projected to be a little bit more than what the municipality currently receives from the private landowner in municipal taxes.
Is that
So
animal?
I'm here tonight to request the town's support of this proposed addition of the land to Green Mountain National Forest, and I'm here to answer any questions, as well as Chris Matrick, who can answer questions on behalf of the National Forest.
I guess one of my personal things is if Green Mountain National Forest would consider having at least one Vasa trail as a connector across there. I mean, you're allowing Vass to go through.
Yeah, so good evening, everybody. I'll do my best here. I'm actually the district ranger in the Rochester Middlebury Ranger District on the northern half of the Green Mountain National Forest. And with David Frankum's recent departure to the Boise National Forest in Idaho, I'm filling in behind him. So I'm playing a little bit of catch up on some of the projects in the southern half of the forest. But, to that question, we did authorize some VASA summer OHV trails, connector trails, as part of the South of Route 9 project, which was signed in 2019, I believe. One of those trails is the Sucker Pond Trail, I believe that's what it's called.
Yep.
Having some work done to it and some improvements done to it. So anytime we consider adding any kind of trail, it doesn't have to be a VASA trail. It could be a hiking trail, a cross-country ski trail, a mountain bike trail. They all have to go through our environmental analysis process. And because, this is a new acquisition, it wasn't included in the South of Route 9 decision. So we would start with, we'd sort of start from square one, working with a partner group. Our forest plan requires that we have a partner to work with when we put new trails in. It seems like we might have a partner with a new ATV club down, just started in Pownal. So we would work with that partner to understand what the needs are, what the desires are. And then if the proposal seems feasible from our management area perspective, think of our management areas as like zoning in a town, different zoning areas. And in this case, this would go into two different management areas, this property. One is diverse forest use, which is where we have the broadest latitude to perform land management, recreation improvement activities. That's the little piece that's out that connects to, is it South Stream Road? And then the interior piece is in diverse backcountry, and that does allow for summer OHV use, trail development. But our plan does restrict it to being connectors, to systems that are outside the national forest. Our forest plan doesn't allow for us to develop our own kind of standalone network of trails on the national forest that, you would go and you'd ride those trails in loops.
Right.
But if it were a connector, we would work with the partner group. You could bring that forward, work with the rec staff and the new district ranger when they arrive, and work through that analysis process. So it is possible.
Thank you.
Mike, did you have a question?
I do. One of my questions was that was the a connector trail, and I think for me that's a tremendously important piece and I'm very familiar with this piece of property. I have a lot of miles on that. there's probably not too many square feet of that I haven't covered in my life. So I'm very familiar with it. So the connector piece to get to the Stagecoach Road, the Sucker Pond Road trail, that are going to be Vasa trails, to me is a huge piece with with a parking area, which I see is in the plan, and an access road off South Stream Road, with some signage, and I think that's a great idea. One of the concerns that I have is there will be a private piece of property within National Forest. And I apologize, I don't have the map in front of me with the owner's name on it. My concern is that will that piece of property become landlocked, or will that person still have access if they have it now? I mean, I'm not asking the National Forest, but if they have access through the park forestry piece of property, the 660 plus acres, I want to make sure that they still have access to their property.
So this is Kate. They definitely do have legal access to their parcel, and the Trust for Public Land actually granted them access to their parcel back when we permanently conserved the Green Mountain National Forest land through the Stanford Pond or Stanford Meadows acquisition and Broadbrook acquisition back in 2005. So he currently has public legal access to his parcel and will continue to have that access.
Okay, and that's I just didn't want to support something that was going to landlock somebody out of their piece of property, and I'm obviously you guys don't either. So just one of the concerns I saw and had.
Yeah, and just for future reference, unrelated to that piece, we are required to provide reasonable access to landlocked parcels within the national forest. You know, it's not a unique situation where we get a parcel that, you know, we've acquired all the land around it, but one landowner still has a camp or a home or whatever it may be, or a piece of land that they want to develop. And we're required by statute, by law, that we have to provide them reasonable access.
Oh, okay,
So,
perfect.
I do have a question on what you mean by reasonable access, right? So if somebody is able to get a car to their camp, for example, today, they would still be able to get their car to the camp, or is reasonable access considered, you can drive to this point, and from here you have to walk?
Reasonable access is usually is typically, and each case is unique, right? Is typically related to the level of development on that property. So if someone has a home, a driveway would be considered reasonable access, you know, that they're going to on a daily basis. If someone had a camp that they've historically accessed on a Jeep road or something like that, that would be considered reasonable access. If it's an undeveloped parcel of land and they just want to go there and hunt, we wouldn't necessarily grant them a road to drive into their property to hunt on an undeveloped parcel of land. It relates to the development level of the property.
Okay. And then just for the, it could just be ignorance on my part, but I did want to ask about the different forms of recreation and what isn't allowed. Because I'm kind of excited about the kind of recreation that we can bring to Pownal. There's a lot of things that are happening now. But you've already answered the VAST and the VASA question, right? So the VASA, I think, the trails are connectors only. There is a snowmobiling access there for VAST. But what about things like, obviously hiking, I believe, is going to be there. Mountain biking, horses, and hunting.
Yeah, so hiking and hunting, you know, can occur anywhere. There's no restriction. We'll start with hunting. There's no restriction on hunting on the national forest within the guidelines of the state laws related to hunting, except in you know, our developed recreation sites, like in a campground, you know, in a day use facility. Hiking, you know, hiking trails, all of our trails have to be authorized to be utilized, but you can hike anywhere. You can hike off of a trail if you want to. There's no restriction on, like, if you just wanted to go walk in the woods, not on a trail, you're more than welcome to do so. A hiking trail, a mountain bike trail, and a horse trail, those all have to be designated. And again, it would be the same thing as I spoke to about a VASA trail or an OHV trail. It would be, you know, we would look for a partner. We would work with that partner to develop a proposal. And then we would put that proposal through our analysis process. Yeah, I think that kind of sums that up.
Yeah, that does. That answers my question. Thank you very much.
Does anybody else have any questions?
So, so if I understand correctly, there is an opportunity, potential opportunity, for a VASA trail to be created as a connector only, not a trail system on that piece of property or any of the neighboring pieces. Now, would that trail potentially, and I mean, this is probably a difficult question to answer, and I respect that. Would it be different from the vast trail, or would it be the same trail? And would it be closed certain times of the year, like the vast trails get closed, certain times of the year in Woodford and Searsburg and wherever? Does that question make sense to you?
It does. I understand. I think I understand what you're getting at. It
Okay.
is a tricky question to answer because it depends.
And I knew that.
I'm not familiar with that particular stretch of vast trail to understand like what is its condition. Is it a high and dry trail? A lot of vast trails tend to be wet, because they're only used in the winter, and that's why they get closed in the spring.
Mhm.
I think ideally we like to co-locate trails as best we can, right? So we don't get braided trail networks or parallel corridors. So we like to avoid that, but we realize that that's not always possible. The best location for a VASA trail might not be right on the vast trail, and that would kind of come out in that proposal development process, and then we would look at that as through our analysis process as well, like what's the best place, is it suitable for this location or not, and then it probably would, and again, depending on the conditions, most of our trails we try to apply some sort of closure to in mud season. It just protects the trail bed. It makes a better trail in the long run. Even our hiking trails, we kind of discourage use at that really muddy time of year. We don't close them, but we strongly discourage use. We do close some of our mountain bike trails to use in mud season. So that would be the time of year, I think, if there were a closure, it would be applied.
Perfect. And now one other quick question related to Bob's horseback trail question. So in order to create a horseback trail, and if I understand it correctly, like say a 4-H group would have to approach you to create that, or some kind of a trail riders association or whatever would have to approach the National Forest to create a horseback trail network.
Yeah, they would want to approach us, and if the 4-H group were like a kind of permanent thing, that would be appropriate. Typically, it's like we're working. We do have horse trails on the forest. At least on my district, the Rochester district, they don't see a lot of use. It may be different down on the southern half where you folks are, but typically on the trails that we do have, we work with like the Vermont Horse Council or the Vermont Trail Trotters or something like that. That's the organization that we work with, or the local club of that organization. And yeah, they would come to us saying, hey, we're interested in a horse trail in this area. And we'd ask them if they've scouted it or, what their objectives are. And then again, we would just go from there, kind of working together.
Okay, good. That answers my question perfectly. I just want to make sure that we're clear on, and that our residents are clear on what is required to that just because this becomes national forest, I think there's a misnomer out there that it becomes off limits, so to speak, to a lot of things, which is not the reality when it's done correctly.
No, not at all. I mean, there are certain areas where certain activities aren't suitable, so it's hard for me to sit here and say, yeah, absolutely, we would go for an OHV trail or a horse trail or whatever. But it's not closed, the door's not locked. The door's always open for someone to come in with a proposal and start that conversation.
Right, and that's great. And that's what I wanted to make sure that, our audience and our residents understand, because I mean, obviously that's our goal, is to make sure, that we're doing the best thing for them. I mean, everybody is.
And my question wasn't, I don't know that anybody's interested in horse
Oh,
trails,
me neither.
but I just wanted to ask it because we do have a couple of
We do.
riding facilities.
That's right. That's right.
And enthusiasts.
And we have enthusiasts, that's right.
So I don't know if you, I don't want to get in front of you, Kate, but I do have a letter of support already written, and I thought maybe it would be best, unless there's something else to discuss now, that I could just read it out loud so you could know what's in it, and then decide if you would like to sign it or not, and then I can take care of getting it to where it needs to go if you do decide to do it. Kate, did you have anything else you wanted to say before I read the letter?
Hope I'm good, thank you.
Okay. All right. So, dear Supervisor Sinclair, the Pownal Select Board supports the permanent protection of the Roaring Branch project as an addition to the Green Mountain National Forest. Federal ownership of these parcels in Pownal, Stamford, and Reedsboro protect the town's most important features as a source of year-round recreation, wildlife habitat, drinking water, and scenic values. This project supports Pownal's rural heritage and enhances residents' long-term relationship with the land, which has shaped Pownal as a community. The protected ridge line of the Green Mountain National Forest is one of our town's greatest assets. This project addresses many of the goals, strategies, and actions in the Pownal Town Plan 2019, such as use the extensive natural, scenic, and recreational resources to provide recreational opportunities for both Pownal residents and visitors. Support policies and new developments that protect and maintain the rural character of Pownal, with special attention to preserving the town's prime agricultural soils and historically farmed lands, and to promoting the general health, safety, and welfare of the public. Assure that forested areas remain available for limited public use, which may include both traditional recreational activities and appropriate forestry. Limit the new development in forested areas to improvements for public recreational use or commercial forestry, thereby maintaining the wilderness character of these lands for the public. Conserve and manage the highest priority interior forest blocks that occur within the town and extend beyond the town boundary. Keep the interior forest blocks and connectivity blocks unfragmented to provide habitat for wide-ranging organisms, neotropical migratory birds, and to maintain forest integrity. Support the forest conservation activities of groups such as the U.S. Forest Service and nonprofit conservation organizations in Pownal. Maintain land cover that provides for water retention, reduced quantity and velocity of flow, and groundwater recharge to adequately address the impacts from flooding and erosion, and to protect surface and groundwater resource quantity and quality. Avoid the destruction, diversion, or contamination of rivers, streams, and water bodies and shorelands and wetlands that could potentially increase flooding, destroy wildlife habitat, result in erosion, or detract from their scenic quality. Through regulation and or the acquisition of fee or easements, protect areas which provide, I don't know what that means. I did not write this letter, but I think it's just water supplies, or is it M water supplies, Kate? Do you know this word?
Just water supply.
Okay, so there's an extra M there. We'll take that out. Supplies from any disturbance which affects the quantity of clean water for public use. This includes surface and groundwater's use for shallow wells in populated areas within the towns. Purchase properties or development rights of properties within the SFHA and river corridor to permanently prevent development in those areas and restore and protect river corridors, floodplains, wetlands, and upland forest areas that attenuate and moderate flooding and erosion. The Pownal Select Board gives its full support of this property's permanent protection as an addition to the Green Mountain National Forest, and recommends highest consideration for a grant from the Land and Water Conservation Fund. Sincerely, if you decide to, Angie Rowling. So I'll let you just.
Actually, I know we said we were done with questions,
Okay.
but I do want to ask a couple more. What about what if we're approached, the town is approached, or the federal government is approached about things like wind turbines or solar panels, or
That's already in the town plan.
but not on federal property, right? So
I
this
don't
would be
know.
federal property.
I don't know the answer to that.
So I think that's more of a federal property question.
Right. I believe so. I don't know. I don't know the
As
answer.
far as access of those on that property.
Right. I know that town hasn't designated in the town plan. We've only got one narrow stretch on the northwestern corner of town that is designated as appropriate for industrial wind. But I wanted to know what if somebody decided they wanted to do industrial wind on federal on what would now be federal property, I believe. What is the stance on that, and is that permissible?
Any,
Kate,
So that, again, that depends. I mean, it is possible. Is that, again, can you help me out with a little bit of topography here? Like that particular spot, is that a high spot?
I believe it is.
No, I think, and I apologize. I forgot your name. Chris, right?
yes,
Okay. 90% of that property, Chris, is going to be on a westerly facing slope.
yes.
Maybe 90%, maybe it's 80%, but a significant portion of that piece of property is on a westerly facing slope that is, I wouldn't say it's steep, but it's also not a real flat piece.
So I mean, if it's property in the town of Pownal, which it is, otherwise we would be talking about it.
Right.
Then per our town plan, we have not designated any of this property as suitable for industrial wind.
Right.
And I just want to make sure that holds, which means it probably is not a ridge line. But I thought the property in that section of town was pretty high up, 2,200 feet.
It is, but most of this 660 plus acres is on a side hill. There's not a significant portion of this land that is going to be on the flat portion, top portion of the ridge line.
So this is Kate.
It's not really that far. It's not really that far from the top portion of that ridge line into Stanford and Woodford.
So the other piece to understand about, if you're thinking about wind or solar, I mean, I'm looking at the topographic map now, and wind is probably not likely because there's not enough of an expansive ridge line right there to support that.
Okay.
And, you know, we have had a wind project before, and we really don't have a lot of stomach for another one at this point, but that's not to say, again, if somebody came to us with a proposal, we have to do our due diligence and get that proposal. But this is also, you know, the dome is just south of here. You know, we're in a relatively ecologically significant area on the national forest as well, and that alone would probably preclude, you know, industrial wind or industrial solar at this location. We don't have any solar arrays on the forest at this time, and have not had any proposed.
Okay, and I that's probably the most you can answer. I mean, none of us can see it in the future.
This is Kate. Just for a point of information, the landowner has been approached by a wind developer for the parcel in Reedsboro along the Hoosick Ridge, but he's never had any interest of any wind development in the Pownal piece.
All right, thank you.
I don't think it's suitable.
Any other questions?
I make a motion that we sign this letter and move this forward. I like their answers all the way through. I think they were very open with us, and I appreciate that. So I make a motion that we sign this letter and forward it to wherever it needs to go.
I second it.
I'd say.
Any other discussion? Mike?
Aye.
Jamie?
Aye.
Angie, aye. Bob?
I
All right, we'll sign this and send it out to you. Thank you very much, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time tonight.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
You too.
So when you sign that, Angie, I will turn that into PDF and I'll send it. Well, I'll connect with Kate tomorrow.
Want that one?
I do. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. All right. So on to the next. So
Update.
I'm on Julie special election. She handed me something. It is in your packets. She asked this to be read. She wants everyone to know that she has mailed out 700 ballots, and she has so far received back 110. And she says social media has my early voting days listed incorrectly. That's not the town of Pownal, because I have not listed that. So I only listed the date of the actual election. So what she did was she made this flyer with the correct information on it, and I will make sure this gets onto the website, although it may have already been corrected there. But I just want to read it so everyone knows. It's a hand count special election. Polling hours will be from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the Pownal Valley Center Station. And due to COVID, only 6 residents can go in at a time. You must wear a mask, use the provided hand sanitizer, take a pen, ballot, and drop off your pen at the end. Absentee ballots are available for pickup on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Or if you want to request an absentee ballot by mail, you can call 802-823-0116, extension 101, or you can email Julie, town.clerk@townofpownal.org, and she will make sure one gets out to you. If you voted absentee in the primary, you will automatically receive an absentee ballot for this special election, so there's no need to call and request again or come in. Early voting, and I guess this is where there was some misinformation, early voting will be held at the town clerk's office on Center Street from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on the following dates: Saturday, September 26th, and Sunday, October 13th. So again, 11th. See, I just made more misinformation. Thank you. Okay, so let me do it one more time. 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., September 26th, and October 11th. So ballots can be returned to the town office on any of these days, and a drop box will be available just inside the door. So that's that. Next, update on the town office project. So yay, we received our local wastewater permit. So I've been working pretty closely with John Rahill, who is our architect. And he's been reviewing the codes, but I'm listening to him and helping him organize. Yeah.
Not to interrupt you.
Yeah.
John Rahill is our architect from Black River Design.
Yes.
Okay.
He's our architect from Black
Just
River
wanna
Design,
make sure everyone knows
who
that.
is providing us with the stamp.
Yes.
Okay.
Just want everyone to be clear on that.
And he's really great to work with, by the way. So he's been reviewing all the codes, and we've been discussing back and forth some suggested modifications. And so he has made, in extensive conversation with Pauline and myself, and also I reached out to each of you individually to get your opinion about a particular issue. So just a couple minor modifications. They do not change cost of the building. They don't, it's just a redrawing that the modular building company has to do. So one really exciting thing is, and I'll have a final answer on this probably next week, but we were able to potentially increase the occupancy of the meeting room, which is the old schoolhouse, to classify it as an assembly space by adding a second exit. And we chose where that's going to go. And also getting rid of a dead end corridor, which all that meant is we're taking a door off of something. It's very interesting. And so the plans, I put them in your folders. These are his notes. These are some of the modifications. And as soon as I get the go-ahead from fire and safety, which will hopefully be tomorrow, saying, yep, we're good with all of those modifications, Preferred Building Systems is redrawing the plans, which is going to be very quick. And then our architect puts a stamp on it. And then he also helps facilitate the state permitting process that is part of the contract with them. So then we have our state permits. So we're really, really, really close. The other thing that has happened since we have our local wastewater permit, we now have now the engineering firm, not Loan Associates, is on our behalf applying for our state wastewater permit. And to do that, I have 2 documents that I need signed. One of them I need, I think, signed just by Angie, and the other one is, you guys are considered the quote landowners, so I need the board to sign this. I can, they're going to enter in any other pertinent information that needs to go in here. So I have those 2 forms, and if you guys approve it, to sign, I need that signature, and I will get that to Guntlow and Associates tomorrow morning, so they can start that process of getting the state permitting. So do you want to, you could discuss that now if you like, or you, yeah.
I have a question. What is the fee? Because last time that permit was presented to us, there was several different fee schedules given to us as information on that particular permit.
It's actually a really good question, and I think it's a standard fee of the state. I don't know. I think it's a fee schedule, and I have to tell you that I don't know what that fee is. I think Pauline came in and told you what it was last time. It was
We had 3 different amounts.
Right. There was.
So if you would like, what I can do is I can make sure I know what this fee is. I mean, I don't know.
Well, I think we need to sign it, Rebecca.
Well, yeah.
And I just want people to know.
You know what I can do is I can make sure when I give you guys my updates in 2 weeks, I can make sure that I'll give you the full update on what the fee was and where we're at with that. I mean, you're not getting this thing without.
Right, no, exactly. And I don't want to hold it up because I don't want to hold it up because we don't know what the fee is.
Absolutely, and
right.
I will make sure that is reported on at the next public meeting. It's not a problem. I would even be happy to, once it's done, to put. I would even be willing to put together just a little. Here's where we're at so far. Report and stick it up on the Facebook page and the website. I'd be happy to do that.
I think
because
it'd be great.
Yeah. Okay. I will do that. I will aim to have that done.
Well, I don't
next week.
I don't want to put a timeline in it. I just think at some point it would be great so that people know, because there is a lot of question on where we're at, especially for people who don't watch, but they may pick it up on social media
or stewards.
Or stewards.
Right.
But no, I just think it'd be great to have, here's where we're at. We have this permit, we have this permit, we have this permit, we're in the process of doing this.
And essentially all of it is here in this report. So
Right.
actually it's on what I'm going to talk about later. So I'm going to actually talk about that in a little bit. All right. So
I make a motion we sign the wastewater permit for the state, for the town office.
Any further discussion? Mike,
Aye.
Dana,
Aye.
Angie, Bob.
Aye.
Is the other one separate?
it's two different parts. It's all part of that application.
Okay.
However, one is a landowner signature sheet, which is for all of you, and the other one is a certification statement. Okay? And they are going to fill in
board members were actually signing this.
Yeah.
Yes. And we'll probably get an additional fee.
I better not get taxed on it.
I know.
That's a trip.
Yeah.
From preferred builders, drawing change.
What's that?
So most likely there'll be a fee
No.
attached to that.
No.
Okay.
No, because when I wrote to them and I made it very clear that we were told that this would be sufficient. And so they are covering our full architect's cost and the redraw.
Awesome.
From what I will double check that, but that is my understanding because they took responsibility for that.
Okay, that's great.
And that was, and that's a lot to their credit. They're
Yes.
actually being really good partners.
Oh,
All
for
of these
sure,
people
absolutely.
are, yeah. And they also, I will tell you, I think that they were talking about potential fees for a redraw when we were talking about completely removing
Yes.
the schoolhouse. So this is
That's a
removing
big change.
stairs and taking out a door and, and putting in an exit, putting in a door on the side.
That's potentially just taking a mouse and moving it over here and clicking it off.
Yeah, I think it might
It's
be,
not that
right.
way. I'm sure it's more intense than that.
Okay, so while you're signing that, we are, Pauline believes, and I actually believe we are as well, that we're ready to begin putting out bids for the electric, plumbing, and foundation. And so my action that I'm requesting is I would like to start preparing the bids. Pauline and I will work on the content, but Linda is the one who actually puts out the bids and manages that part of the process. But as far as all the content and writing it up and making sure all the specs are there, that's a process. So we need to start that.
Absolutely.
I make a motion that we start that process to
Bid out.
bid out the electric, plumbing, foundation for the town office. Let's keep it moving forward. It's moving forward every month. And unfortunately, it takes a little bit of extra time to do this, but it's moving forward. Every step is forward now.
Yes, absolutely.
We've
I'll-
actually
I'll
moved it
second
forward
that.
significantly.
We have a motion on the table, a second, any other discussion? Mike,
Aye.
Jamie,
Aye.
Angie, aye, Bob,
Aye. So I'd also say that where we are in the town hall project, it seems to me that we've got a lot less risk of overruns at this point. We've gone a little bit over, but not a whole lot, and it's and we're really controlling this pretty well. I can't wait to get around there.
My personal goal is to try and chase as much money as possible and refunds as possible to offset anything. Even, so that's what some of the grant work I've been doing is, and honestly, the fact that we were willing to get the modular company to cover architectural costs was just enormous. So
it was very nice.
Well, in all fairness though, Bob, I think we are gonna incur some overage because the price of the building itself and the
Oh,
time
that's
we
true.
started this is going to
The delay from then to now, and the cost of materials.
Exactly, the
Yes.
cost of
And we
materials has been
That's
astronomical,
definitely-
so,
Yes.
but I think you're absolutely right, I think we're controlling it very well. The cost overruns are gonna be minimal, I think there are probably gonna be some cost overruns.
I think
I don't
there's
wanna give some
definitely-
false-
no,
I don't
there
wanna give some
definitely will be
false
some
hope.
cost overruns. And to be honest, though, so we do have the new number, and this is only a preliminary number, which is why I hesitate to really talk about it. But just to be fully out with it, is that we believe that it's around, as far as materials are concerned. This is not entire project. This is materials. That there is a 20% change in materials, and so that's what I'm saying is that's. I will hopefully very soon come with very specific numbers on that soon. But some of these changes have to be made first before
Right,
things are
right.
solidified. And again, we can keep working to offset any creative idea that we can have and work together as a community to offset this, is really great. So
And before anybody picks up on the 20% number, that was very specific to the material. It is not a 20% increase
On the entire
overall
project, no.
Right,
Please
right.
don't
It's the-
portray it
it's the
that way.
materials-
not that.
it's the materials of the modular building
A lot of that's,
Exactly.
and the
COVID.
fee.
and that's COVID
Yes,
driven. That's what
also
other
the
people
fees
need
for
to-
the people working in the factory. That's
Right.
absolutely
Right.
what it is. It's not just the materials, it's the
Right.
materials and the putting it together.
Right.
Because actually lumber is down from what I understand, but they're anticipating it going back up next year. So okay.
I'm glad you clarified.
Yeah. So which actually makes me think, now that you say it, actually, if part of it is COVID and we can directly relate it to that, I might be able to chase some CARES Act money for it.
Right.
So let me look into that this week, okay? That would be really cool. All right, so here's some actual work planned. We've started working a timeline, and we don't want to be over ambitious, but I want to, we wanted to set some goals. So here's things we've actually planned and we've set some goal dates for. First, the schoolhouse interior needs to be cleared. So there's furniture inside of there that's being saved at the town offices and also the historical center. Joyce and Pauline are speaking with Mr. Winchester about the possibility of storing the contents in the schoolhouse at the Legion, since parts of it are being unused in COVID. And they are seeking community volunteers to help with the move of this furniture. And the goal to complete that portion of it is September 20. After the upper exterior is emptied, the porch, chimney, ramp, and then I forgot to add it in here, but also the basement, needs to be taken down and put into a dumpster. Pauline found a community member willing to do this work as a donation in kind. So all we need to pay for out of the town building fund is the dumpster.
So let me ask a question.
Yeah.
On that part of it.
Mhm.
Who's responsible for this person or group of people, whoever it is, insurance wise if they get hurt while they're doing that project?
Well, first of all, just so you know, that as of right now, I believe if the Pownal, who owns the schoolhouse right now? Us or
We
the
do.
Pownal
We
Historical
own that.
Society?
But we do not own the property.
Right.
All right, so let me find out about that.
Right.
Okay.
I just think
Because
that's
if I believe that the person who's offering the work in kind is someone who's licensed,
I'm
to
probably
do.
insured, but I just
But I will find that out.
I just
will
want to make sure.
Yeah, I will absolutely. I need a pen.
CYA.
I'm a pen clicker, so I have a
Yeah,
pencil.
you're not allowed to have a clicking pen. Our goal date for that is October 11th. I'm writing insurance here, and I'm going to make sure I have something out to you guys in the next couple days on that. Okay. So we previously awarded the bid for excavation. This is just a heads up. We don't know. It's just something to talk about. If something happens with the timing with the person we awarded the bid to, it's something to consider. Mike Connors, who is our building mover, is willing to do the excavation at the same price or less of what we awarded. He's also an excavator, so there'd be a benefit to having the excavation and the move because they need to be really tightly coordinated. We don't know that's happening yet. It's a heads up, just so you know what's going on. Linda and I have started discussing the bond and the letter of intent because frequently what needs to happen is, because there's only the 2 bond seasons, that you need to get a carryover loan to get you to the bond. So there's a letter of intent that you write. I'm just learning about this from Linda now. A letter of intent to get that carryover loan, and you start working with a bond counsel. They help you go through this entire process. So we're starting to work. Linda's taking a webinar on the process in early November. However, we first need to make contact with the bond contacting counsel who can make sure all of our ducks are in a row. So we really need to start moving that bond forward. Okay, that's everything for town hall. Does anyone have anything? Yes.
We need permission from the board to actually speak to the bond council and hire.
What is the cost of that, Linda, just so we know? Approximately.
I have not this project. I have no idea.
Maybe we could
Last
find
time-
out the costs and the.
The last time the bond council was used was for the wastewater.
Which was a significantly larger amount, like
Yeah.
20 times.
Yeah.
Okay.
What we could do, if you wanted, is maybe over the next 2 weeks we could get the pricing and everything like that, and
I
then.
have a particular bond council person that I've worked with who did help us through the wastewater. If he's willing to take us as a client.
Do you remember what that price was at that time for that? Just
No, not at all,
Okay.
because our consulting engineers helped arrange that.
oh, okay, fair enough. Just
But let's be
curiosity.
fair, it has to be done. It's one of the things that has to be done, right?
Right. No, I was just curious.
Yeah.
Right. No. Right. I understand that. I just want to. I wanna make sure that every-
Ask the person,
Right.
can you help?
Right,
Powell?
right.
And then he'll tell you what.
Right.
So I make the motion to authorize Linda to reach out to the bond counselor agent to bring back the information that we need so we can move forward.
Second.
Just on the discussion, wasn't it that we have to do this no matter what,
Yes.
right?
We do have to do that.
So-
I was just curious what.
But does that motion cover what we need, or do we need the authority to just work with the bond council and then come back to us and tell us how much it costs?
So authorize them to reach out to the bond council.
And then come back and tell us how much it costs, but we actually need you to start working with them
Yes.
in order to
You
secure
need
the
to
bond,
Well,
not just go out and find out how much it
Secure
costs.
Bond council, if this attorney won't do it, then I seek another one.
Should have seek another one, but
Okay.
I just wanted
Is-
to
is
report
it-
back is what I'm asking.
Is that
Right,
motion?
I'm not against
Authorizing,
it.
but
I'm not
report back
against
with
it.
the.
Right, I just wanna make sure that the authorized her to work with the bond council is part of that motion.
Yes.
So if you came back to us
Not just
at our
the-
next regular meeting on the 24th, and told us that yes, I hired Joe Smith, bond counsel, we can move forward there, or do you need something in between? I guess is our
I
question.
need something in between, because if I'm going to secure a council, we need to start immediately, that whatever the agreement is.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
That's
that's
what
what Bob's question was.
Right, I wanna make sure that whatever the
Because
motion
otherwise
is.
you're gonna wait 2 more weeks, okay?
Right,
Unless
right.
they-
Right, I don't wanna wait anymore, let's
So
move
why
forward,
don't we change it that she moves ahead and
Right,
then
we
comes
just have
back
to-
to
With
us
a
with the
report.
cost, no matter what.
we just
Yes.
have to put an addendum on the, or amend the motion.
Right.
It's fine, I just wanna make sure we're doing what we need to
That was
do.
my intent, but I.
Okay. So can we amend the motion, Mike?
So we
Okay, so
authorize,
you're authorized to reach out to the bond council.
right, and then after.
Hire the bond counsel and move forward,
Report back to the board.
how's
And
that,
also report back to the board,
on the,
cost and what.
on the 24th?
Okay.
Well, if she finds out before the 24th, then just email the board.
Well, yeah, no, that's true, that's true, but
Okay, second. Any more discussion? Mike?
aye,
Jamie?
Aye.
Angie, aye, Bob?
Aye.
Okay, go ahead with that, Linda, please. Thank you very much.
Okay, next.
I just have,
Yep.
I just have one quick
Of course.
question, sorry, on, who's gonna reach out to our excavation bid winner?
We are doing all that. Me
Okay.
and Pauline are like, I'm basically project
Okay.
managing with her at this
Oh,
point.
okay.
So,
All right, that's fine, I
yeah,
just,
all of the contacts with subcontractors and contractors and all of that, me and Pauline are handling.
And
So,
Linda's
So-
writing the bids.
and she's doing all the
Proposal.
bids, all the numbers, all the talk of the bond, all the, right. That's
Okay.
that's how the labor has been divided.
so in that case,
Mhm.
should we as a board right now, if the winning excavation contractor says, no, I can't do it for that because it's timing or whatever, should we make a motion right now
Yes.
to move forward with Mike Connors as the excavation
Insofar as
rather
he,
than go out to bid again?
insofar as he honors what he said,
That's
which
right.
is same price or lower.
That's right.
Otherwise, I think you've got to rebid.
Right.
Okay.
I think we should do that. So we're not delayed.
Can I entertain a motion then?
I'll make a motion that we reach out to the winning excavation contractor for the town office project. Of course, ask him if his bid is still good. If it is, then we stay with him. If not, or her, I don't know. I don't
To
remember
him,
who it was. I
Mike-
think it was.
Oh, no, Mike Connors is the mover. Yes, that's a him.
If not, then we reach out to Mike Connors and award the excavation to him, providing that it's the same or less as what the winning bid was. Other than that, we go out to bid again.
And I want to be really clear that that's called a change service.
Yes.
That's called a change service. That's not a new thing.
That's right.
You have the authority to change service in this way when you're in the middle of a project that's already approved. I just want to clarify that.
And I
Thank
want to
you,
make
Rebecca.
sure that every step is done the right.
We're doing our very best.
I know.
All right, so
This-
we have a motion on the table.
Yeah.
Do I have a second? Any further discussion? Mike,
Aye.
Jamie,
Aye.
Angie, aye, Bob.
I'm sorry, Rebecca. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I wanted to make sure we got
No,
that
that's a
down.
really good point, and I really do want to point that out. That's called a change service.
Yeah.
And now that we're in an approved project, that sort of thing, you know, we're bidding out electrical, plumbing, finish. Okay, so next I have.
Jamie seconded. You're welcome.
Okay, so the mission statement, I did put it out for comments and I received very little comment, but I did get some comment, and one was wonderful Joyce Held, former teacher, sent me some grammatical corrections and suggested some stronger language. I was equivocating in some places, I guess. So I reflected her changes. I am going to do what she tells me. I also received another comment from a citizen who requested that all political ideology be removed and all libertarian language. And I'm not clarified on what that is. I'm assuming it refers to when we mentioned free speech and personal freedom. So because I always want to make sure that we're doing the right thing and we're not, I wrote to the VLCT and I asked them some questions. I told them, I sent them the mission statement. I asked them exactly,
I'm sorry, I just wanted to add, because right now we're assuming what the feedback was referring to, but it was not specific.
No, it was not specific, but I'm
Interpreted.
assuming that that's because when I'm, it's the only things I can find in here that I would ascribe to a quote, a political ideology, but it's more constitutional. So free speech and personal freedom are constitutional words.
Yes.
All local governments are founded upon constitutional principles. So I wrote to the VLCT because I like to get in front of everything and just see what's going on. And so I have some bullet points from the VLCT regarding that. So Vermont, this is from their response to me. Vermont statutes do not address how or whether a board uses terms such as free speech or personal freedom. So there is no statute guiding the creation of mission or vision goal statements. This is at the discretion of the select board. Also, some definition, this is from her again at the VLCT, some definitions of policy could include, quote, mission and vision statements. Regardless, board mission or vision statements would not generally override policies the select board adopts per its legal authority, such as a personnel policy. So in other words, these statements never override or constitute policy. We had already said that last
Right.
week. So
Correct.
we were like, nope, this is not policy. This is just a statement of ideas, of our vision, right? So she sent a couple articles. This was about because I also asked her about the place where I wrote where we're separating the idea of private personal speech on your personal social media accounts versus if you're doing it as an official in an official capacity, you know. And so she sent me 2 articles about social media and that exact question regarding constitutionally protected free speech. I have included them in here. And I don't want to bore everyone with reading the whole thing. But I just put a little excerpt in here. I can give you the synopsis is that there is constitutional protection for free speech for personal media, social media accounts. And kind of the way she presented it to me was that you never, it's hard for me to continue talking about it because some of this might need to be in a different kind of session. Do you know what I'm saying? Because there is a specific situation that we are talking about. Yeah. Okay. So, but I gave you guys some articles and some guiding principles, okay, regarding all of this. And I also in here is the second part of the article is in there as well. Yep.
So question,
Mm-hmm.
would it be possible to put this on our town website?
Sure.
These bullet points, the answers from VLCT,
Absolutely.
and the articles that we're gonna have here, that we have here in front of us, so that it's very clear and people can read it and
Yep.
see it on our webpage.
And it's going because if you want, I'll jump to something I was going to talk about tonight because now it's come up twice. And what I was going to suggest is, so the town of Bennington actually puts up their board packets for the public to see. And I was going to potentially suggest to you that these packets, the ones that I make, unless there's protected things in it, obviously, I could, after our meetings, make the entire packet available
On the website.
on the website and on Facebook.
As long as it's not contractual or personnel, I don't
Well,
see a
no,
problem.
No, and
Oh, yeah,
so it would
anything
be
is
my
confidential
report.
and-
It would be the supporting documentation, so that way
Right.
people don't have to go searching and have to say, "Well, I was interested in that. Let me write an email and ask about it." It'll just be there, like here it is. This is what we talked about. Here's the supporting documentation.
I think that's a great idea
Yeah.
because
I do
that
too.
way it gives that 100% transparency of what we talk about here and what we have in front of us is now put out to the public on at least 2 different locations.
And I also know because I know that I'm new in this role, and so I think that it's also really good just so people can know what it is that I'm doing. You know,
So it's a whole new role.
it's a whole
Part of
new
the
role.
function.
It's a whole new role.
Do we
So
need a motion to do that?
no, I could just do that.
I don't think so, but
I can just do
Okay.
that.
I mean, that's public knowledge anyways.
right.
So let's just put it out.
Let's just put it out.
The one thing you might want to do is, do you want to accept the mission and value statement as written?
I didn't
make
have
a
a problem.
motion to accept it as written.
I'd like to look it over one more time.
Okay, we can keep it
Just-
out for public comment for 2 more weeks.
Yeah,
Okay, great.
with this information being put out there
Mhm.
for the
Okay.
next 2 weeks, I'd like to put it out for the 24th. I'd like to put that on our agenda to adopt the mission statement, even if we make changes on the 24th.
Great.
Linda, could you add that, please?
So you got it.
Thank you very much.
We were making eye contact.
Okay.
Thank you,
So-
Linda.
Next. Green Mountain Bible Conference Land. So last Saturday, myself, Bob, and Angie, we walked on the land. I'll just reintroduce it for people who are listening. There's an entity, a church that would like to convey to the town of Pownal a parcel of land that's 8+ acres. It's very small. It's right off of Route 7 on Searles Crossing. I believe someone's dad might be very close to it.
That's why I said I already know where it was.
Oh, okay.
I've
Well,
already
and
been
so
there.
we walked it. There's already access to it.
Mhm.
It's a great little piece of land. It's clean. No one's been littering up there. There's already walking trails up there. It's because there's already an access road into it with a little grading and a couple loads of gravel, there could be a trailhead created with a small parking area. Under the deed, so if we do decide to take this, we have to agree that it says it has to be used for religious or civic purposes. So civic purposes mean we can create a park or something for recreation. So it's wooded, it has trails. This is my idea about it. And then Linda had a really great idea for it today too. My idea was this would be a really great starter project to show that we have the capacity and can work on a small park area, get a very small grant to perhaps do some development there. That will prepare us and show that we have the capacity to get the larger grants for the larger piece of property in a couple years when we're ready to do that. So some ideas we had for the land, one I had was you could put a pump track for mountain bikes there. There are pump track grants that you can go after. They'll come out and they'll make the little jumps and make sure the trail is there. Also, obviously, walking trails. And Linda had a great idea that maybe there's a space up there where they could create an archery range. Also, maybe you could put a couple tent platforms up there. There's a lot of opportunity up there. It's very quiet. It's very untouched. That's the update on that piece of land. I'm gonna go check Zoom.
It was a pretty good. I thought it was a nice little piece of property.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree.
And it's kind of L-shaped, where the long portion of the L is very narrow. But,
I don't know if your
the end
map
of
was
that L.
working correctly that day, but it's beautiful up there.
That's true. But I did want to ask, what happens if we don't take it? What are they going to do with the land?
I believe they will tax sale it.
Yes, it will go to tax sale and you put back into the coffers.
Right. So that's kind of my point.
Somebody
We
would
need to
purchase it,
remember that if we take it, we're taking it out of tax.
Well, on the flip side of it, in the deed, it appears, I know I haven't read the deed and I'm not a lawyer that reads the deed, but it appears that in the deed, it is religious or civic purposes
And so
only.
if whoever owns it next uses it for any other purpose than that, then it automatically goes to descendants of this person, which don't exist. So it becomes like just a floating property again, from what I understand.
That wouldn't have any tax implications anyway.
Right, it's not like somebody could develop it for houses.
Okay, so if we don't take it, we're not. If we do take it, we're not losing tax revenue. Basically.
There isn't. They're not. Yeah, go ahead.
Nobody's paying taxes right now. That's why it's in the
Right now.
status that it is, right?
I'm talking about future.
if you sold
So
the
if we
tax
don't
sale
do
it.
what happens?
Right, if we tax sale the property as the town, if we had
Right.
Ellen do a tax sale, then if I bought that piece of property, just
Right.
hypothetically, okay, I'm not
Yes.
saying I want
No,
to,
I'm just,
then I would be responsible for the taxes. But the way this reads, the deed, I would have to use it for religious or civic purposes. I couldn't separate it into 4 houses. And I'm not a lawyer. But if the deed says that it's, and this is coming from a zoning standpoint and whatever, it has deed restrictions on it. It's the same as if you can't have horses on your property.
So
You
we
can't-
change
yeah,
it
but was
over.
that at the time it was given to the
Right.
church or was it prior to the church? See, that's the thing, is a title search would show and they would go back.
I
they
have the
can see that.
documentation, and I can go over it
And-
with our town council again to ensure. But it's what I.
It sounds like there's a deed restriction that you couldn't
When
take
it
the
was-
8 acres and develop it into 4 2-acre
Exactly.
parcels and put
Right,
houses on.
and that wasn't my point. My
No, I
point
know.
was what it was. I'm not saying I'm for or against it either.
No, I
I just
understand.
want all the facts on the table.
Right, and that's what I'm asking.
Make it. And so it sounds to me like if we take it, we're pulling it out of potential taxes. But
Yes.
there would be pretty limited taxes because of the restrictions of use.
I agree.
Right.
It's not all that valuable.
Not a lawyer, but I would agree.
That's if it was deemed that at the time it was gifted to the church is where that's why I say that's a legal question. So we have to take.
Well, the church could put that in there. Once they own it, they could put deed restrictions in.
The church doesn't want it.
Yeah,
They
that's
don't
what
even
I'm
know how
saying.
they got
There's
it.
already a restriction
The
in it
church
because
doesn't
it
want
says
it except
goes
the gift.
back to
Yes,
the
it goes back to the
descendants.
descendants.
Do you follow where I'm
that own
going?
it to begin
Right, but
with,
the
and
church,
there is no
the church
descendants.
could put deed restrictions on that once they own it.
And it stays that way.
Right.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, they
Yes,
can.
it does. It stays that way.
Oh, yeah.
Or it
You
goes
could
back
put deed
to the
restrictions on your
descendants.
property. Right, and that's what I'm saying.
Okay, let me just interject something here. The town has been sitting on this piece of property for about 2 years now. So it's been just kind of sitting there idle, not in, it's being offered to us as a free piece of property. So this is just, I can certainly come and make sure we do all the deed searches and things like that, but it's not, I don't even think you walked it. I don't even believe it's to be developable. It's slowed.
Yes,
No, I'm
well,
not.
I mean, it depends on where you're, I think if you went way back up in there, you could get access.
It depends on your vision.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, it's a
Do you-
nice piece of property.
It really is.
Do you know what the taxes are right now?
I don't.
Yeah, see, I don't know what
The
they are
back.
either, but I just, that's my only question. It's, as far as.
They would like to
I-
convey it for the forgiveness of the tax bill. That's what it is. And it's about,
It's 2 years and I think it was a couple $100.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I make a motion that we proceed with the conveyance to the town of Pownal on this piece of property because I see it as, I see it more valuable to our residents to have a possible 8 acre piece of property to go walk on or an archery range or a couple of tent platforms. I see it more valuable with the deed restrictions that are potentially there.
Absolutely.
That's right. I make a motion that we proceed with the conveyance to the town to take ownership of that piece of property.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Mike?
Aye.
Jamie?
Aye.
Angie, aye. Bob?
Aye. And it's actually 8.77 acres according to
Yes.
Onyx, so it's almost 9.
It's almost 9 acres.
And I still would like, even though you just decided I still would like to go back up there with you, Mike, and you, Jamie, and Linda would like to go up too, and we can go, and then there's only 2 of you, so we can actually have a conversation, to see what you guys see up there. And
I'd
start,
love to go.
yeah,
Sure.
we should maybe go next week.
Yeah.
Okay, so access to town-owned land and potential uses. So I met with Ray Rodriguez to get a sense of what, if anything, he's already done and talked about as part of that recreation task force. As part, and he's very happy to serve on what we're doing with me. So I really want him there. He states that there is access. We were going to talk about access. That's part of what our discussion is tonight. I don't know much to say about it, but you guys might. He does state that there is access available from the New York side of things. So if that is true, we have the possibility of applying for a very, very large grant program. I'm talking a couple years down the road, but it's one of those grant programs I talked about a couple months ago, because this grant program favors projects done in collaboration across state lines. So there was a little group over right across the state line that has the town that has that access, and we have this access. We could get a very large grant to create a footbridge over the river, or there's many things we could do. It's just a way out there possibility. So I don't know if you wanted to discuss access first, and then I'll talk about the task force.
He's referring to the New York hiking trail, that group out. I'm assuming.
Well, I'm sure he's talking about coming in off the Crest Trail because that's the only thing that borders it.
Yes.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. That's the only thing that borders that piece of property. Well,
And we have to be careful because I think we want multi-use up there, right? So we don't
That's where I
want
was-
to shut anybody out.
Thank you.
So we want to be able to put the. That's where you were going.
Yep.
I'm sorry. That's
No, that's,
So
well, don't beat around the bush, Jamie. Just spit it out there.
yes, yeah. And if you designate something, I'm going to use the ATVs as an ATV trail. Anyone can use it. You can hike, you can mountain bike, you can ATV, you can ride a horse, you can do whatever you want with that trail. If you designate it as a hiking trail, all other particularly ATVs are shut out. So, and we don't want to do that. So the idea on this task force was to pull in people who want to hike, mountain bike, horseback riding,
Right.
ATVs,
Well,
all on this together, so that we can find a good way to use that property for all purposes, for hunting.
And I already have. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'm just saying because you already got into the task force idea, which we're going to get to in a minute. I already have people who want to be a part of that. I already have 4 people.
nice.
I don't think I want to limit ourselves I think having that access point from New York State side is awesome.
No, we need to discuss our access as well.
That's right. I think-
100%.
Yes,
Right.
I
But there,
think,
but there is access. Like that's
Right.
just saying that.
I
Like,
know that there's access.
Yes.
well, there's really no access from the Pownal side.
not from the panel side, right? But
No.
from New York.
Not without acquiring access.
Correct.
There is potential to acquire access to this piece of property from the Pownal side. Now, I think the New York side is awesome, and I really agree with that idea and expand on it. I want to make sure that we pursue, as a board, access from the Pownal side
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
of this piece of property. I don't want to stop at the New York side
No.
and say, oh no, this is it.
Right.
I want to make sure we
That only
pursue it.
offers us the possibility of getting that really cool grant that's in collaboration.
And that's right. So I want to make sure that we pursue.
Because there was a
Diligent.
road down there that was washed away, and there was
Right.
also a possible access through what used to be called the Ponderosa.
But that's all private now.
Right.
But there was one person that was willing to work with the board previous.
And
that
yeah, but that was a
person-
while ago.
Right. But it's a potential.
No, that's what
They could be reapproached.
Right.
I think we need to approach all possibilities
Yes.
Absolutely.
and go from there, for sure.
As a board, if
And I
we
think
go,
we need to stop, the other boards, in my opinion, to beat around the bush and let it lay there forever. And I don't want to let it lay there. I want
No,
to keep
I wanna
pursuing
move
this.
forward. That's
I
why
want
we
to move
decided to
forward.
run.
I
We
just
wanna
want to
move
get it
forward.
done.
right, but if we come up as a board, come up with a plan on how we want to take and talk to these people versus how it happened in the past,
We should invite them in.
exactly, because
Yeah, I
Every
think-
single
right.
one of them.
Right.
a lot of people got their noses rubbed in
But
stuff
this is
before,
also
so.
you're talking. I believe that would fall under legal contractual, so it could be a private conversation.
Right,
You
and
could
I
have
think
it
that's the
in
way
an
we should.
executive. Yes.
Right.
And
But they all should be invited.
I think we need to reach out to
Every
every
single one of them.
bordering landowner to try to acquire and obtain access to our
That's
property and get it
Right.
done.
Because there is a reservoir up there, and I know there was a right of way to the reservoir.
There is a right of way still for water rights if we ever needed to reopen the wells. We do have it's in the deed. But as far as any other access, we don't have any other access.
But there are some landowners that, if any one of those landowners are willing to give us access, there's multiple properties that is one landowner away from access to that property.
Exactly.
Yeah,
No, exactly.
no,
Exactly. And
absolutely.
I think we need to. I think maybe. And I think.
We should invite them all in. and
Yes.
let's start a
Well,
conversation
I
with
think at this point, it's probably a job for you, Rebecca. I don't
them. We
really
should
want
have
to load.
enough to do.
I know, well, maybe it's not. Maybe it's a job for us to do. I think we should.
How about I write you a letter? How about I write you the letter, but you guys actually, because you guys are from Pownal, for me to approach these people feels a little.
Well,
You guys
that's
have
what I'm thinking of.
relationships, and that the board does it, but I could write you a letter that is your introduction. You know.
And I think
I
we
think it's
can.
good.
Yeah.
And we can. I can pull up the town view and get all the potential, not the potential, but all of the landowners, bordering
That'd be
landowners
great.
that would give us potential access. And then I think we approach them. I think we
Absolutely.
invite them in as one at a time or however we want to
I
do
say
it.
one at a time.
And I think we try to move this forward. Let's get going with it.
And to be clear, the access is gonna be a little bit different from north and south, right now.
Right, because they're not bordering.
No, I mean the whole property is separated.
Right,
So
that's what I'm
they're
saying.
two-
They're not
they're
connected.
two- They're actually two disconnected
Pieces, yeah.
properties, but they're really close to being connected.
And maybe we can approach the landowner that's in between the two, and we can put an access, a corridor, one trail that everybody uses to go
Well,
across.
and
Which is
just-
something different.
Exactly.
And so here's also
That's true.
something so you know. So this goes into not to stop what you're talking about, but this goes into the task force portion because we're talking about a multi-year plan to start
Right.
really playing this out. So I put out the volunteers for the task force. There's a flyer on Facebook, and I have already received 2 letters of interest. And Ray said he would serve with me, so plus me, that's 4 people already. I have Matt Zwinga put in a letter of interest. They're in your packets, and also Jennifer Boucher. I'd like to say it the French way, but maybe she says it differently. I don't know, but So I'm going to call her the French version, and she would also like to serve. So I'm really happy to have them. To remove any confusion over calling it a recreation task force. I think we need to call it something like the Tannery Lands Task Force or a Recreation Economy Task Force
Town land.
I
or
think-
Park Development Task Force or Town Lands Park Task Force, because
I
I was
think-
thinking we could add in the 8 acres to this.
Yes.
Right, but and I think town of Pownal needs to be part of the name of that task
Right,
force
so it's
because
this-
we've had some conflating of public and private in the past. It's not,
Right, that's right.
let's make sure everybody knows that this is an official town of Pownal task force.
Yes.
I like the park development part of it.
So Pownal Park Development Task
Town
Force.
of Pownal Park Development
Yeah.
Task Force.
All right, there we go.
I kind of like that because the 8 acres is potentially going to be a walking park or
Yeah, multi-use, but no motorized vehicles there. It's too
Exactly.
little.
But I mean, you can name it anything you want.
Yeah,
But
and,
it's
and
something along those
yeah.
lines.
and so, okay, great. So my idea of how we're going to work, so I'm going to reach out to them and tell them, welcome on board. I'm going to have a preliminary meeting with them in my new home office. And my idea is how we'll work is that we would meet monthly. So what we'll do is set an order of operations of, setting up these plans and what we're going to talk about, give different people different tasks, making relationships with people. And we're just going to start evaluating the documentation that Linda gave me that already exists so we can really understand the land use agreements and things like that. We're going to go look at the land and we will start creating small reports to come back to you about what we've learned. So we're really clear about what's what and what isn't. And after that, we're going to start brainstorming project and development ideas. I'd like to be really doing that by year's end.
Okay.
The
Okay.
biggest thing that I
Mhm.
think I feel strongly on is that we need to have our general letters of intent saying, in the nicest way that the Town of Pownal Park group is looking to gain access. The board would like to take and meet, and I'm not against going and knocking on the door and hand delivering it as a select board member.
That'd be great.
And it's just because that it shows us rather than having a task force group go walking on
No, I
somebody's
don't think,
property.
no, that's not
I-
our job.
No,
I don't
no,
know
she
yet.
wasn't
That's,
saying that.
no, but still, to get there, you may have to cross somebody's property.
You have to also
And-
think that it's
and I-
COVID-19, that somebody might not want you knocking on the door.
I understand that, but I just think that put the best foot forward is to have one of us or a few of us do the delivery of the letter first, because
Before we
rather
even
than
walk the
somebody-
land? No.
Well, I
No,
think your
because
point
we
is
had-
you have to cross somebody's, the
Yes.
task force has to cross somebody's
Right.
property.
And
to
that-
get
So
to
what
it
Ray
to
told
figure
me
out.
is that he actually has permission as privately to walk along one of those.
Okay,
So
and-
I do believe that he already has like an agreement to be able to walk across to go
Well,
see
I'm-
this.
I'm
and
sure.
that's
But it's not a public access. It
Right.
is not, it's,
Right.
But my point is that in the past, we had some individuals that just took it upon themselves to walk on properties.
all right,
It left bad taste in their mouth.
you go first then.
And this is what I'm trying to nip in the bud.
Good, do it.
This is what, I don't want the BS from before in the
Mhm.
last few years and what I've heard 7 years ago happen. I'm trying to learn from that for us to take and
Great.
try to have a positive,
Call the person first on the phone.
Yeah.
no, that's fine. I'm
Agree
just,
totally.
So then once we get that going, then I'll just be in touch with you over the next couple weeks to make sure that we have some way. But that's not even the first thing we have to do. The first thing we have to do is really look at all of our documentation.
Mhm.
And listen, we can go look at the 8 acres, no problem.
Right.
So,
I mean,
we
that's
have
not-
something to do.
Right.
This is a slow process. This is not happening tomorrow.
Right. Gaining access is going to take us. I don't see us gaining access for a year.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
I mean,
One year.
right? I mean, and I don't. Even if we had someone agree tomorrow, it's going to take a while to draw this up.
right, do a
And
plan.
draw some legal access that's going to be rock solid, and that's what I want. But I want to move it forward.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
I just want to do it the right way so we don't piss people off in the process.
good. I don't want to piss
That's-
So why
anyone
don't you say that instead of taking 20 minutes to get that out? Get it out.
off.
Okay, and
Okay,
then move along.
Yeah, so moving along, so grant updates, I'll do this very quickly. We're still waiting to hear on the digitization grant and the cultural facilities grant, but that should be before our next meeting. I'll know about both of those for sure. The Elder grant, I believe, is probably be the meeting after that. That is the one for the laptops and phones. That was an ask of approximately $10,000 for resources for the office. We met with the church council again regarding the historical preservation grant. I believe Cliff is on here. Yeah, Pownal Center. So I believe that's Cliff Dayton, who's on the council for Pownal Center Church. And I have to like run back and forth to the Zoom computer and unmute him if he wants to pop in. But maybe you can talk about some of the things we've talked about in the most recent meeting while I go unmute Cliff.
Okay.
Hi, yes, Cliff here.
Actually-
I'm with the other members of the church too.
Oh, you can hear us?
Yep.
Excellent.
He said something for the church also.
Okay. Oh, there's other people there as well.
There's a few of us, yes.
Oh, that's great. So, Cliff, do you want to tell us about the estimate? I think you just got an estimate. Do you want to tell us about that really quickly?
For the roof, yes, it was between $8,800 and $10,000, which I thought was a great price for replacing all of the shingles. He said that includes ice and water shield along with the new aluminum drip edge they put around the entire edges, and that also includes a dumpster for shingle removal.
Okay. And so just to remind everyone, it's a total ask possible of $20,000, meaning a $40,000 project because it's matching funds.
Could do you know how many square that roof is approximately? Did you have that on the
20, yeah, it's 50 by 20 per side, so I think that comes out to 20 square, he said.
Yeah, okay.
And that would put his price at $440 a square, which originally he said $450, but that includes some volunteer work he has. Actually, some people offered to help out with some of the labor, so that I think is what brings the cost down.
And so that would be included. Is that included in the estimate? Because we are allowed to do half of our donation of our matching funds can be in kind, meaning if they're donating $2,000 worth of labor underneath his license, obviously, then that's $2,000 we get from the state that we're not actually paying in our 50% match.
Okay, I can confirm that with him. Yeah, just to double
I would
check.
love that written into the estimate because that will help us greatly.
Okay. And we have some paint estimates I can email over. I just got one today, actually two today, for two different estimates on paint. One of them was $14,500, and then one was $16,500. They're both pretty similar, but I'll email those over so you'll have the written copy of those. But again, I talked with DJ's Painting, who was the first crew that came and looked at the roof or at the sides. They said they wouldn't do it, but they were great with giving us a ton of advice. Just really went over 2 or 3 times, kind of went through all the details on what she would expect, and basically said that they would think their estimate would be around $5,000 per side. But they couldn't do it anyway. So I think to have estimates coming in under that is sort of what we should expect. And those are just a few that we've come up with. I know that Mike was working on a few too, so he might have some other options.
Right, and Scott was supposed to meet me
We were
actually.
giving one as well today.
Right, and I was gonna get one this afternoon. Well, he sent me a text message at 4:30 this afternoon. He had to cancel because he was having a little stomach issue. And I said, "Nah, you can stay. I don't really need that."
That's right.
Nobody. So I do have plans to meet again with him to give us another estimate on the roof and cornice repair. And I do think that $8,800 to $10,000 price
It's a good price.
is a very good price.
I expected it to be over 10,000.
Yeah, I expected it to be well
Well,
over
it
that.
sounds like because they're giving some in kind, so it
Yeah.
actually could be a $12,000 project if
Right.
he adds in that in kind donation to it.
So I think that's a really good. But I think we can do our due diligence.
Yeah.
to just move
And
forward.
we also have from Josh Miller, we have his estimate as well. So we'll just we have tons of estimates. It's great.
Right.
Okay, so moving on, Angie gave us like an incredibly precious scrapbook from her grandmother with all these news clippings and pictures from the church through past decades. And so I want to digitize those pictures. And then I want to give this back to you, Angie, because I hate having it. I feel so so scared to have your thing. So I went to Staples, and if Staples does it, it's themselves, it's $1.98 a page. But if I go there and do it myself at Staples, it's 50 cents a page. But it's possible. I don't know if do we have on our Konica, I might be able to do it here, I think, and put it, do you know, Linda, if I can scan a large amount of documents on there and put it onto a flash drive?
I'm not sure if he's
I can look up the stats on our copier, and if I cannot do it there, then I would like approval from you guys to go to Staples and do it
I
there.
think would the best thing would be to do to ask Chuck if he could do it on
that's
that.
what I would ask.
Yeah, I'll ask Chuck
on that
first.
printer.
Yeah,
I just know that right now.
there's those terrible lines. The lines are gone. Oh, that's right. I made these copies and there's no lines. Okay. Okay, so let me talk to Chuck, but if I would like approval if Chuck says no, that's not happening on there. I want approval to bring this to Staples and have them do it.
Well, I think in the long run, it's probably going to be cheaper to have Staples do it at $1.98 a page
Yes.
than to have you do it.
And they'll do it
50%.
professionally and they'll
But then we have to pay your time.
Right.
True. I just right.
And not only that,
I would rather do it that way, so thank you. And then they will give me the flash drive and then I have that and Cliff is also providing me with a large cache of pictures and then we can start I'm going to work with the church council alone in the next week. We can start making that scrapbook. We can start making that I want
Yes.
Sunday school assignment.
I gotta find them.
Sorry, what was that, Cliff?
I would definitely recommend Staples to scan the documents in because again, you're looking for like 300 dots per inch. That means we can recreate those on a printer. So depending on how you scan, if you don't scan it at a high enough resolution, you won't be able to reprint them. So if we want to make copies of the photos, for example, we want to have the highest possible resolution. And Staples will know all that and they'll ensure that it's right. And it saves a lot of time. It's a huge amount of work. So if it's only less than $2 a page, yeah.
Does anybody know or have an idea of how many pages that we're
It's
talking
at
about?
least 40.
Oh, so
40 or 50
$50.
pages.
So we're talking $100 or less?
$100
I make a
maybe.
motion we have this done. I beat around the bush for $100.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? Mike,
Aye.
Jamie,
Aye.
Angie, I.
Okay, great. I'll coordinate with Linda about how to pay for it. Maybe I'll pay for it out of pocket and get
You with the hard stop over there couldn't ask that question? Come on.
Okay. All right. Yes. Perfect. Okay. And Cliff, and other church members, let's talk tomorrow or email tomorrow and let's make a plan for you guys to come to my home office next week and we'll start working on the scrapbook and stuff. Is that good?
Great, and we do have the document from the last meeting filled out with some of the missing questions. Kim was able to help get a lot of the documents together, and we found our original
Great.
grant
So you can-
information that will help us finish this one a little easier with all the filled-in information from before. So
That's
we got a
great.
lot of
And then
stuff ready.
also, I wanted to mention very quickly, the church is planning an event. Do you want to just talk about that very quickly, Cliff?
Just a simple tag sale / community event set up for this October. We've done this a few times in the past, and we've kind of branched out a little bit, not just the tag sale, but we did a fall photo shoot where families could come in, take a photo, and we'd print them out right on the spot. I have like a small photo printer, so we have a couple big cameras we use. So that was nice just to kind of build like a sense of community. And we were hoping to do that same thing this year. I know it's a little bit tough with some of the COVID restrictions, but I think we can sort of space it out well enough.
And you're saying that any fundraising that you do here is for the benefit of this work, correct?
Yes, and actually we're starting setting up the tag sale. We already raised $80. I was going to say we already have $80 from getting items for this tag sale. And one of them sold. The lady couldn't make it this fall. She said, "I want this right now." How much? I said, $80. She said, "Here you go." So we're already on the right track with gaining money for this. It's not much, but hey, it's a start.
So the question
Well,
for the
you have to have a start.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
right. So the question for the town is, does the town want to potentially officially help out with this in any way or have a presence there or make hot dogs or whatever it
Didn't
is?
give a date.
Oh, what's the date? I'm sorry, Cliff. What's the date?
We set it up for Columbus Day weekend, right? I think it was that Sunday. Let me just pull up the form here. Kim, do you have that?
That would be
Yeah, that's October 11th. From 12 to 5 was a rough estimate, but we're not set on that date if we need to change it to, a different time frame. But yeah, October 11th.
Are they looking
I
for
would-
volunteers and donations?
I would love to see the town involved,
Okay.
along with the church group. This is a whole.
Working together.
That's right. It's a full building. It's a community building. Let's move it forward. Let's do something positive.
It's the old hub of.
Do we have a town picnic line item in?
We do, and there's supposed to be $500 in it, is that correct? There's a line item for the picnic fund, and I believe it's $500.
Because we could decide this we could decide this at the next meeting. If we just decide tonight, we know we want to participate with them, I can start working with them on what it's going to look like. And in 2 weeks, you guys can decide, yeah, we want to throw $200 towards hot dogs. And I know I'm so familiar with the COVID regulations for outdoor gatherings. So don't worry, guys. We'll make a whole plan for it. And
I make a motion that we participate with the Pownal Center Community Church Group on their plan for whatever day they choose.
for fundraising
For a
event.
fundraising event, tag sale, fundraiser, whatever it is. I make a motion that the town participate in it.
Put it on the town Facebook page.
I second. Any other discussion? Aye.
Aye.
Jamie?
Aye.
Angie, aye. Bob?
I,
All right, congratulations. You have us helping you.
All right.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
Cliff and all you guys, I will contact with you tomorrow, and we'll have a meeting next week, and we'll talk about all the things.
And what you
Okay?
might need, or what we would like from the town.
Yeah.
If we want to sell food,
Yeah.
baked goods.
You might not ask us again, but whatever.
Right. You will see. We'll see how we work
We
with
got us
partners.
once.
That's right. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Great. Thanks so much.
All right.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
All right, we're almost there, guys. This is the audit updates. So I had a conversation with Joe Haru, and I'm probably doing the wrong pronunciation, and Tim Doyle of Bonadio Group, who is our auditing firm. Because our former auditor is refusing to provide required documentation, they require certain documentation to create a baseline for the beginning of their fiscal year 2019 auditing work. They've already done the auditing work, but it's a little clerical missing piece. So Joe is working with Ellen to get that documentation. She was working on it today, so that's going to be coming very quickly. If we retain Bonadio as our auditors ongoing, this will never be an issue again. It's only when it's transferred from one auditing company to the next auditing company. Okay. The next issue is because they received a 30-page, quote, fraud report from a former select board member, that has put a huge delay on the production of this final report. Because such a large fraud report was filed, they also are aware that there was a forensic audit. They need to see a complete and detailed finished forensic audit to be able to put the fraud report to rest. However, they did reiterate to me again, it's the second time they said that they believe that all of the accusations contained in that fraud report are baseless. However, because once the word fraud is claimed, they have to contractually cross all of their T's and dot all of their I's, but however, they did say they believe that all the accusations to be baseless. The holdup on the finalization, therefore, of the 2019 audit final report, the annual one, is hands down the delay of the thorough and completed forensic audit report coupled with the 30-page document of these allegations. And these two things are not the fault of Town of Pownal, our treasurer, or any other town entity. I'm just reflecting what I was told. That is included in the audit. And Joe Rue mentioned that Ellen is always very incredibly receptive to him and provides all the required information when he asks for it. I have received a draft copy of their audit report, and I did send it to you. This is a draft, and so therefore it obviously can be subject to change once they see a forensic report and also those numbers from Ellen. But Mr. Haru does not anticipate any changes. That's a quote. They wanted to emphasize that the draft report is not to be disseminated to the public. Right. This is not public consumption. However, I got permission to speak about a few items in the draft. Number one, from their final draft report, this is a quote. Our responsibility is to express opinions on these financial statements based on our audit. We conducted our audit in accordance with auditing standards generally accepted in the United States of America and the standards applicable to financial audits contained in the governing audit standards issued by the Comptroller General of the United States. Those standards require that we plan and perform the audit to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements are free from material misstatement. An audit involves performing procedures to obtain audit evidence about the amounts and disclosures of the financial statements. The procedures selected depend on the auditor's judgment, including the assessment of the risks of material misstatement of the financial statements, whether due to fraud or error. In making those risk assessments, the auditor considers internal control relevant to the entity's preparation and fair presentation of the financial statements in order to design audit procedures that are appropriate in the circumstances, but not for the purpose of expressing an opinion on the effectiveness of internal control. So in other words, they're not here to say you could do it this way instead or do it that blah blah blah. It's just are there material misstatements, et cetera, et cetera. So accordingly, we express no such opinion. An audit also includes evaluating the appropriateness of accounting policies used and the reasonableness of significant accounting estimates made by management, as well as evaluating the overall presentation of the financial statements. And this is their statement. We believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our audit opinions. In our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material aspects the respective financial opinion of the governmental activities, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information of Town of Pownal as of June 30th, 2019, and the respective changes in financial position for the year ended in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted, blah, blah, blah. So I want to reiterate from that conversation to both the board and the public that with this auditing process, as stated above, it evaluates and examines literally every aspect of our accounting. You could see in the draft, it said literally everything it looked at. They look at everything. And there is a misconception I have heard around town that there's, quote, no one looking at the books. So I really wanted to emphasize that tonight to educate the public about this particular process of auditing. We're very much having someone look at the books in depth and very thoroughly. This is the same auditing process as used by a majority of other Vermont towns. Lastly, actually I have two lastlies. The final page of the draft report, which I do have permission to say what it said, offers the summary, quote, no material weaknesses identified, no significant deficiencies identified, and no non-compliance material to financial statements noted. Bonadio has requested that we give them a specific timeline for the bond application, which we're going to do this week for them, and then they're going to respond with their timeline as to getting us this final report because we need it for the bond application. So that's that.
Good job, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, anything on that? On to the next. Okay, so in other news, I was in the office today, so all day actually, making tons of copies for you guys. And Ellen gave me the report of what she's been working on, and she asked if I would make copies and put in your packets. And it's a 2-page report of the things that she's been working on. And I don't know that we need to read it out loud, but I can make this available. You guys have it in your packets, and I can make that available. Yep, go ahead.
I'd like to see those made available to
Absolutely.
the public.
Yep. Absolutely, that's going to be in my packet.
I think
report.
that's what we're looking for, so that
Right.
people know, the general public knows what's going on, and know what people are working on.
Right,
We're not hiding it.
that's right.
Well, nobody is. I mean, the road crew, the transfer station.
So
That's right.
also, we have a report from the transfer station from Tom, and we also have a roads report, both of them written. Linda, did I need to read them out loud, or should we just make them publicly available, do you think? Because we had talked about reading them, but it's gotten awfully late, so I don't know. I know, I'm a talker.
Why don't we put them up on?
I do think they want them addressed publicly.
Okay, let me do it then.
And I do know that Joel has a question.
Oh, that's right. Well, let's definitely do,
I have
let's do
Joel's.
Joel's first. It's shorter and he does have questions. So this is from Joel. School buses and equipment disposal. And this is from Joel. I have a price of $9,500 for the 2 of the 3 buses we have left. That is the 2011 and the 2007. We will keep the 2013. It is the auction house where we sold the 2010 to as well, and we ended up with $6,000. Would you like me to send them? So to auction is what I'm assuming he's asking.
It's the auction house, we're not sending them to auction.
Okay.
We are sending them to the auction house. They will write, unless I'm
I don't understand.
informed
I'm
by
just reading.
Joel.
Yeah.
They will write us a check for $9,500 for those 2 buses, and then they get whatever they get.
So in other words,
Right.
you're saying he's asking, do you want us to
I
do this?
believe
Right.
I believe that's the way it is.
Yes,
Okay.
that's the way I understood.
I'm pretty sure that's how it goes.
Yeah, no, I'm only
pretty
reading it. I
positive.
don't know.
I know. But he talked me about it.
Good.
The only question that I have is, when did we make the decision to keep the 3rd bus? There's 3 buses.
We agreed to
So
keep two.
the previous board, I thought, only agreed to one, but I gotta refresh my memory. I gotta go back.
We were keeping one on the road and one for backup, I thought.
That's what I thought.
I thought it was
too.
two buses.
Right.
I believe that's what.
But there's 3 buses total that were turned over to the town of Pownal by the Pownal Elementary School District when they joined the
That's correct.
the SBSU elementary district. There were 3 buses. Okay. There was a 2007, I believe, a 2011, and a 2013.
Yep.
So Joel is,
Okay, we're keeping the newest one.
that's right.
Right.
But who made the decision to keep the newest one?
Well, per his
And-
advice,
I understand that, but when this was brought up last year, the last year's board, it was a 1-year,
To that defense, yes, it was 1 year.
right?
But because of COVID-19 and everything, they were never, ever allowed to use the buses.
I understand that.
I think your point is that it was supposed to be a 1-year
Trial
trial, and are we
program.
now deciding that we want to go to the school bus business, or are we proceeding?
Or are we keeping in the school bus business?
Right.
And if we're keeping in the school bus business, then I think we may need to make some decisions on that. Because that particular bus that we are potentially keeping is only good for 1 year. That's why, contract wise, to the SBSU, for Pownal Elementary, to
as far
use
as
that,
their charter type deal.
yes.
Okay,
For whatever reason, for if at this time, unless the contract changes, which it is due to be rewritten, okay, that particular school bus, the 2013, the 2011 is out of contract right now. Okay, that's done.
so what's it state? Only 8 years?
7 years. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, 7 years. And there's a mileage, but we're not even close to the mileage. And so are we gonna stay in the school bus business for a year, and at what cost are we staying in the school bus business for this year?
Right.
Because there's maintenance costs, there's a lot of costs, there's insurance, there's everything involved.
Yeah.
I just want to be, because I'll be honest, and I don't really care one way or the other, and there's no secret that I work for Dufour, whatever. And it has no bearing on me whatsoever. Actually, it's probably a little easier on my job if Pownal has their own. But there is a cost here, and what is the cost? I mean, what are we going to pay maintenance? What are we going to pay insurance?
So,
We
can
already
I
did
make
that in
a,
1 year. We already did that last year. It was in the budget,
yeah,
It is a
so,
budgeted item.
the budgeted item.
It doesn't matter. Just because it's budgeted doesn't mean we have to spend it.
Well, that,
That's right.
no, that's
That's
true.
That's true, but
And the money that of the sales of the other buses
we're
is going into that account.
going into that account.
But to
for
that
line
maintaining the
item.
bus.
I think to
So-
your point, we need to decide if we want to continue to do this.
Right.
However, does that have an impact on this? We have an opportunity to offload 2 of them for $9,500,
Right.
and then can't we make a later decision as to what to do with the
To offload this one also, correct?
I mean, yes. I mean, I make a motion that we sell the 2 buses for $9,500 and be rid of them
I second
and be done out of those 2.
that. I second that. That's the recommendation here. And then I think if we can put it on the next agenda.
And that's fine. I just want to bring that up.
And maybe do a little research on, do we want to continue?
Well,
You
do
speak
we,
with the school. You should speak with the school.
yeah,
There it
because
is.
But
what's,
right now, there's no school in session. I
Right.
mean, it's kind of.
That's right. And that's my point, Angie.
Right.
We're keeping a school bus
that not being used.
potentially right now that we're maintaining and we're inspecting 3 times a year and we're carrying insurance on it and we're paying somebody to maintain that at whatever the rate is per hour to maintain it. For what? Are we gonna use it in September? No. It's because it's utilized for field trips only. So are we gonna use it in September? Nope. We're probably not using it in October, and we're probably not using it in November. We're probably coming from me that's in the school bus business, and believe me, I can't give you any answers on what's going on. It's probably January before there's a significant amount of field trips that are going to go anywhere, if then.
You know
I
that
think
me and you
those
aren't
are-
going to agree on this.
I know that.
Yeah.
So
I know that.
I know that, but financially,
Right,
Right.
we need to warn it, we need to let the right make their case.
Right.
First of all, I just
Both
have
sides.
one question. We're already paying the insurance. What does our insurance go from?
When does it end, you mean, the policy?
When does the policy end?
Well, you can get a
Just
refund.
like
Right. Right, so, I mean, there would be no sense in doing anything till then, because you're only gonna get a pretty low refund. If
So-
we had just renewed it, say, you know, you could get a pretty significant refund, and I don't know what it is.
All right, so I have a motion on the table to sell the first two buses for $9,500 in a second. Any other discussion on that? Mike?
Aye.
Jamie?
Aye.
Angie? A reluctant aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Okay.
I mean, right now,
There's also, Joel also has in his report here, he has an old John Deere tractor that's been here for ever and ever, for $2,000. It's been put out to bid before with no bidders. I make a motion that we sell that for $2,000.
Maybe I want that one. 2,000.
Well, then put your
Second.
bid in.
I gotta be honest, I've driven that, you really don't want it.
I second.
All right, any further discussion? Mike?
Aye.
Jamie?
Aye.
Angie? Aye. Bob?
Okay.
So just a quick synopsis of the rest of Joel's, so the public knows. On the road department front, we've changed the culvert on Mount Anthony Road, currently doing the culvert on Strohmeyer Road, which was yesterday, which was bid and won by Bizon Excavation. Setting up the screen sand to be hauled to the warehouse, sand shed at the shop. He's getting a price to crack seal middle Pownal Road, which is approximately $10,000. He has plans to dig a curtain drain on Furlong Road to try and stop it from failing as Snake Hill Road did. And have some drainage work to do at the transfer station. And they are also currently doing the fall grading and ditching right now. I know that they did the county road end of town last week. And I believe they're working kind of towards Strohmeyer Road and that way. It was done, okay, like in the last couple of days? Okay, so yep, they're working their way
Yep.
from county road out, apparently.
Okay.
That's it for the road.
Okay, and then, transfer station report, it's 2 pages. Would you like me to just give bullet points and then
Bullet
make
points.
it?
I
Okay,
think
then I'll
bullet
make it,
points.
okay. The increase in fees, I think this one's important. The increase in fees, especially the permit fees, have been a success. They sold 352 in July and August, and they're only $350 behind in all of last year in permit sales. So the commingled recycling costs have skyrocketed from 30 to as much as 132 per ton. So that's part of the price fluctuation. The transfer station, there's a statement about receiving organics starting July 1. 2 years. This is how ahead they are. 2 years before the mandatory use of organic collection. So they really got in front of that. And so one of our changes for this year is that they're charging for radios, DVDs, 8 cents a pound for electronics. So there's some statements about that. The highway department is going to put a drop inlet and a 15-inch pipe under the roadway to remedy the severe water problem they have coming off of the hill.
Mhm.
They finally shipped their 513 tires out, and they've been assisting the Vermont Department of Agriculture and Department of Health with mosquito traps. The turnover from Tam to Casellas has gone well, and the dispatchers are in Rutland. They're not local, but they've had a couple minor issues, but nothing drastic. He assisted with the BCSWA HHW event. I don't know what that stands for.
And wait.
Thank you. See, I'm just reading.
Yep.
On August 8th, they had over 250 cars and over 300 families drop off items. They ended up with over 10 boxes of batteries. He's going to help out in Dorset. He received an email from Call to Recycle about high output lithium batteries recycling. He has been talking to the regional representative of Call to Recycle for explanations and costs. He's been doing a lot of work regarding these batteries and the prices on them. Okay, our swap shop has been quite busy since the pandemic hit. We were fortunate enough to receive hundreds of very high quality children's books in March. So he posted a Front Porch Forum message, and people came, and parents, but until then, parents could only get their books online. They came up there and they got their books. And on the brownfields, all of the wells have been drilled, and they're awaiting the test results.
One quick bullet point.
And we'll put this on line so
Right.
that you can see the whole thing.
With Tom, I spoke with him this morning. It still works.
Yeah.
Believe it or not. he's very receptive on giving us a monthly report on, like we've asked everybody to do. Like we kind of spoke briefly about that this morning. And he's also going to provide us with his quarterly reports that he sends to the state in every
A
quarter.
nice report. Yeah.
Yes, it's a very nice report. It's very in depth. They've moved all the batteries. He's on top of things. It sounds to me, and I'm guilty. I haven't been over there really that much, but it sounds like he's doing a really good job over there right now.
Yeah.
As Darcy is it, and Joel, all of our outside entities, so to speak, are doing a really good job in their respective field.
I second.
And I just have that feeling right now that everybody's really up to speed where they need to be.
Those were all my things.
Really, that's it.
Thank you very much.
I know, goodness.
And it's only 5 after 9. Sorry.
Okay, let me see. I
All
think I'm gonna
business.
do, maintenance. I'm gonna do the town report.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's right under transportation.
I'm sorry. I skipped over you. I'm sorry.
Okay, I
Linda.
got two things to do, business we're gonna do.
can't be heard. So actually, you might just voice, for this part, you might want to go through by.
Jiggy, here I am.
Okay, so I happened to run into Dave Adams recently, and we had a discussion about how we were going to get the town report prepared this year. And he put together a proposal which I sent to the board, and I'm recommending that the board hire Dave to actually prepare the town report again this year with the help of myself compiling all the information that's necessary, that's like the part that I do anyway, help compile, and then he assembles it together. He has all the software, he would be doing the mailing. He says in his proposal that he would be an independent contractor, not an employee. He will use his own computer, an hourly rate of $20 an hour with a not to exceed amount of $1,000. I'm sure he knows the exact amount of hours that it requires to put the town report together. He's been doing it for the last several years, actually. So I would recommend the board taking Dave up on his offer to do this.
I think it's a good idea. I think we ought to do this. But at the same time, I would like to. I think we're going to need some knowledge transfer because he can't do it perpetually.
Exactly.
And so I think if part of that could be, I don't know, maybe to teach you, Linda, how to do the parts that you don't do. I know you do the compiling now, but next year we're probably going to need to do just because.
I'd have to see how involved that really is and what we need for software.
Well, right. I was going to bring that up too. Yes. And we know what software is using, so if we need to purchase it.
Actually, as we go forward, I believe in time that the actual mailing out of town reports is going to come to an end, and it's going to be strictly online.
Yeah.
Right.
As the schools have done
Yeah,
and
and I just say
other
that.
towns.
Yeah.
It's just the way of the future.
And how we disseminate it is going to be a separate question from actually getting it together. Right.
I think there'll be changes going forward, even in its format. Probably just providing the community with the essentials of the financials. Some reports, some community reports. That come from the nonprofits.
Yep. So, can I have a motion for that?
Well, I think what is the motion that we're gonna? To Bob's, are we gonna make a motion that we approve Dave to train, quote unquote, help train Linda? This goes back to removing the auditors from office. That's kind of one of the consequences of removing the auditors who prepared the town report. So now it falls onto someone else, so to speak.
Right. And historically, it's been, I wouldn't say the auditor, it's historically it's been Dave.
Mhm.
And so,
But
and that's
still,
and I know that during that time, he had expressed to me that was the one thing that he had some concern about, was who's gonna do the town report. So, and that's where the training.
Right.
So-
So if we're gonna hire David Adams to do training and to help train Linda on creating the town report in the future, I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with hiring David Adams to just generate the town report, because I don't think that's part of what.
Right, and that's why I brought it up.
Right,
So
no,
it's gonna
right.
be, in the way I'm envisioning this is it's kind of on the job training. So
Right,
he does
right.
it with Linda in tow, and then Linda knows how to do it.
Right.
Are you comfortable?
I don't know, because I've never prepared the town report. I do not know exactly all the software and everything essentials that go into it, other than the information I give.
Wasn't that
And does that change?
Does that change like that information we give him, see that, or he just puts it in?
He puts it, he
Places
actually
Places it.
puts it together to name that.
So he's out of input in your program.
wasn't that part of our? I might be wrong. Wasn't that part of our executive assistant job description? Creating the town report?
Compile. That's what my job description says, compile information for the town.
Okay.
Doesn't
Okay,
say
all right,
that.
and that's exactly what you said.
Mhm.
Yep, I get it. That makes perfect sense, and I'm just kind of, just quickly scanning through it to make sure I see all of the different things that are in there. It is a pretty comprehensive report.
Yes, it takes a long time
Yeah.
to put that together. That's why Dave starts working on it in September.
That would be about now.
Yeah.
After following the completion of the approvals, yes.
Okay. So, did we have a motion already?
I thought that's what you were doing.
I'll make a motion that we hire Dave to both prepare the town report and provide some on-the-job training during it to transfer some of that knowledge, or most of that knowledge, to town employees to be able to be more self-sufficient next year, in the future.
Second that.
Now, the way this might play out, because you only do it once a year. I mean, you train somebody and then they don't do it again. So what I'm envisioning is if he does the town report and helps train Linda on what to do, that next year we may need to hire him again with fewer hours.
Correct.
And that would be, and then the next year after that, we should be self-sufficient. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So I make the motion that we hire Dave Adams.
And Jamie said it.
With training.
Right, training.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
The
I just
original motion, yes.
I knew Linda wrote it down. I just wanted to make sure that it was.
Any other discussion? Mike,
Aye.
Jamie?
Aye.
Angie, aye. Bob?
Aye.
Okay. You're welcome. And then the second thing
The
was the
second thing, our IT person requested, I asked the board, needs 2 more licenses for the Viper for our antivirus, and at a cost of $72 for additional. We can't run the extra.
Is it
computers that we're
72 each or 72
on.
total?
72 total.
Make a motion.
Second it.
any discussion? Mike,
Aye.
Jamie,
Aye.
Angie, aye. Bob?
Aye.
Okay, I just heard it. Thank you. Anything else, Linda? All right. Moving on to old business.
Oh, oh no.
Old business.
Old business. Green Mountain Racetrack. Mike,
I asked that quickly and briefly. I've had a couple of phone conversations with Michael Sayers, the promoter of the concert that's been advertised at the racetrack. Rebecca and I had a discussion this morning about the next step possibly to take with him. I believe we're gonna ask him to come to the 24th.
Yes, but I'm gonna have a conversation with him first, and I've already told him he really needs to get a variance from the DRB for the use of the, he's nowhere near really, but I say, if he wants to come here and get a short education on what the next steps are for him, for his pursue it, you know, he's asked me to be on the agenda.
He's
You
called
guys-
me. He's called me several times over the last 3 weeks, and I think we need to give him a little bit of time just to inform him what the steps are that he needs to take place. And Rebecca and I talked about that this morning. She's going to reach out to him. He definitely needs a DRB variance for zoning at the racetrack. For number one, I don't want to get into a whole bunch of stuff
No,
about
we
it,
can do
but
that next, we can do
we can do that on
next
the 24th. He's asked for some time to the board. I thought we could give it to him on the 24th. With that being said, if our agenda, for whatever reason, is pounded, we'll move them. All right, is that okay, Linda? Okay. If you tell me or tell us, sorry, I don't mean to say me, but if you tell us that our agenda is going to be too full for the 24th, we'll push them off.
And I'll be able to tell you once I speak to him how much time I think he's gonna require as well. You know what I mean? So
And then I think also whether he requires. It's
that's
possible
correct.
that we
I might
can-
be able to give him the information.
Exactly.
to move him along.
I just want to tentatively put him on.
Yeah.
I want to tentatively put him on, but I also know that Linda tries to keep us, running fairly smooth, knowing that we can push him if we need to. And I'm very comfortable with that. Okay. That was
Alright,
it.
so we need to set dates and places for public information for the ATV special election.
I think we have to do it by Zoom, don't we? I mean, we can't hold a place,
Actual public.
an actual public, right? I don't think we can hold a public hearing at the school, per se, or the firehouse, or here, or wherever. I think that would all have to be done because of COVID, unless we
You
let.
have to be outside, you do it creatively,
Unless we do 5 people in here, we could.
reservations, you can't do that either, 'cause it's a public meeting. So.
Right. So,
Well,
and if we try to do an outside meeting, what if it's raining?
Well, why not both? And if it's raining, then it's only.
You get to
So
two,
we could do.
two, correct, Linda? You must have two.
I know
Okay.
two meetings, but that's not my point wasn't about how many.
Oh, if it
It was
rains,
how
then
do
it's
we do
also on Zoom. The second one's also on Zoom, if it rains on one of them.
No, I'm saying that both of them should be on Zoom, and you give people a choice. Well, why not put just like we televise it. If you're having a public meeting, they're normally televised and people show up in public. If we're able to do it, then let's have a physical meeting and put that same physical meeting on Zoom so people can have a choice. I'm not comfortable going to a large gathering, so I'll Zoom in, and other people can show up in person.
It'll be difficult to Zoom an outdoor meeting, if you're talking about outdoor meetings.
Yeah. I was
I mean, in that sense, you have to
Because
invite.
how could, I'm playing devil's advocate, how could you and I have I don't want to say argument because that's what's going to happen. How could you and I have a discussion about the ordinance or whatever if you're outdoors and I'm Zooming? You see what I'm saying? I don't.
That's true, but public comment, I mean, it's more controlled. We shouldn't have members of the public.
Well, really?
They should really, that shouldn't be happening.
I'm not going to disagree, Bob. I'm not going to
Why
disagree.
should be happening? People get up and make their statement, they say it to the board, and then somebody else can come in and counter that statement or make their counterpoints or whatever. and
Totally
say it to the
agreed.
board, and that's how you get a little bit more respect out of it. Plus, if it's on Zoom and it's televised.
Let's just do Zoom.
I think so.
All right.
Let's
It's too
set up some
complicated, we
dates.
don't have enough time. I'm not a board member, but
Who's
that's
got a?
I will not be available next Thursday. Not that it matters. I'm just giving you guys.
It has to be within 10 days of the 13th. So both of them have to be starting 10 days prior and in that,
October 3rd to October
Yes.
12th.
Okay. That's fine.
Is that right?
Calendars, I was kind of thinking the last week of September, so that makes it the last week of September. October 1 is Thursday.
yeah, but it doesn't have to be within 10 days of the, so it has to be between the 3rd and the 12th, right? Or, yeah.
So we have to have 2 meetings within the 3rd and the 12th.
So you need between Monday and Thursday.
We'll
So
do
why
it
don't
now.
we do Thursday, October first, is that a regular meeting?
Can't do the first.
You gotta do the third or later, because
Oh.
the third is
Oh,
10
third.
days in advance.
So Monday and Thursday,
What are the dates?
or do you wanna do the day before, the 12th?
Monday would be the fifth.
The voting is the 13th.
We both do the 12th and
11th.
the Monday.
That's not holiday.
Oh, that's right.
Columbus Day, I don't know.
I'm not looking at a calendar, so I'll let you
Oh, yeah, the 12th is Columbus Day.
Mhm.
bring it
Yeah,
back
so-
to the.
It's Indigenous Persons Day.
So we could do
I think
like,
you should be looking at September 30th and October 1.
we can't do
Well,
the
we can't do
30th.
September,
We can't
right?
do September, 'cause we have to have it within 10 days. We have to do it between
The,
the
the
3rd,
10-day window.
only 10-day window, huh?
Within 10 days of the election.
Right, it's calendar days, not work days.
So what about the fifth and the eighth?
So
That
the
Monday and
a
that
Monday
Thursday.
and a Friday, or a Monday and a Thursday?
The just not that it matters really, but the 8th would be our regular meeting. So we would have to move a regular meeting. We wouldn't be able to do both.
So-
On the 8th.
Do you think on the 12th, which is Columbus Day, in the day around,
Well, I mean, not everybody has it all, right?
people shouldn't be traveling anyway. Just saying.
Well, let's do,
Let's do the 5th and the 7th.
I'm okay with that.
Seventh.
And now, what days of the week is that?
So that's a
Monday
Monday
and
and a
Wednesday.
That's Monday
Wednesday.
and a Wednesday.
That'll make Monday.
So that's gonna be October 5th and 7th.
Then we can have our regular meeting on the 8th and not get off schedule.
What time?
6 p.m.
6 p.m.
Yep.
Zoom.
Zoom, zoom, zoom.
Okay.
Get it
Is
done.
that good for
Are we
everybody?
going to, just so that we know, are we going to impose a time limit on comments?
Yes, 3 minutes.
Okay, just, I want to make sure that's out there.
Because if there's
And,
100 people out there that want to
I'm
talk,
not, I agree totally. I just want that up front and out there. I
That's
figured
3
that's what you
minutes.
want to do, but
and you're gonna be my little clock person.
I got it. I'm good with the clock.
Okay.
Generally, we ask 3 minutes. We ask if
One
someone's already
person.
made
Right.
the point, say you concur with that other person rather than repeat the whole thing.
And-
Um,
And I do want to put this out there for the record. When I keep track of time, if a board member
Right. Ask the question.
interjects or asks you a question, I stop your time. A board member asking you a question does not count against your
Right.
3-minute time
Exactly.
limit. I just want that out there too.
Okay.
'Cause there's been some discussion about that.
All right. Are we all set with that? Okay.
I think so.
And then the last thing is we have to accept the resignation of Priscilla Maxon. With regret, she did a wonderful job for us, and that was effective, I can't remember the date,
September 1st. right?
September 1st. Thank you, Priscilla, for everything that you did. You did a great job, and you'll be missed.
thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All heard a lot of good things.
Yes. So the last thing is public comment. And then we have to go into executive session for contractual,
Okay,
Legal.
or legal, which is contractual.
Marlena?
Marlena, go ahead, please say.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, Marlena Palan, Niles School Road. So I have a couple questions for the board and just wondering if I can get some assistance. I've been trying to do some research and there's limited information available out on the website, and what is available doesn't go back very far. So I'm looking to see if the select board would potentially follow the public records retention policy and provide digital access to taxpayers without the burden of financial cost to access them from the website of select board minutes, external auditor reports, and annual reports. As I stated, I've hunted and pecked through the website, looked at everything I could, but it just doesn't go back far enough. I've been offered access to the records via hard copy at cost, and I, as you know, a taxpayer who's already paid for these records when they were produced, I don't think we should be financially burdened with the additional cost to obtain them.
We are just following the VLCT rules, correct?
I mean, so if she's asking for, minutes and, things like that follows under a public records request. And we follow the state given fee schedule because it does take staff time to reproduce those things. I do believe she's asking for the digitization of the minutes going back further than they are already there, and that's something that you guys can discuss as a board. That's a different issue.
It does go back.
All I'm requesting is if the board would entertain the idea of allowing these items to be put up on the website so that the public can access them at will without the need to make public record requests that can become a financial burden.
Right, and I think the request is understood. I just want to make it clear that many of the things that we just mentioned are already available on the website and go back for several years. If we're asking to go back further than that, then it might be that might be
Goes into
problematic.
hard copy.
But yeah, there is a documents link on the website that takes you back at least for the minutes. I thought the town report was there, but I might be wrong.
Town report is there.
The town
multiple
report
years,
is there.
yeah.
That's two of the three that I heard mentioned, and I'm not sure what the other.
I'm not looking for the current. I'm looking for older historical information. I'm trying to do research going back a minimum of 15 years, max of 20. And I can only go back as far as 2017 for board minutes. And I can only go back as far as current, I believe it was current for the annual report. And there's no external audit reports available that I was able to find.
So current, the annual report goes back to 2014 on the website. Also, so just so we're talking about, this is essentially digitization of records,
Right.
which is an enormous task.
Undertaking, yeah.
It's a task that'll cost a lot of money, and also creating storage for it, et cetera, et cetera. And it's certainly something that you guys can discuss. But all of these records are available through public records.
Okay, the minutes were typed and saved on a computer, so they're digitized. The external auditor reports, digital files were produced, and hard copies were also provided to the board. So there's digital copies already available. And the annual reports were digitally compiled by the auditors and are available. So I'm not sure what needs to be redigitized. They should already be saved and archived. Perhaps that's a discussion you may want to entertain with Chuck to get PDF copies up on the website for public review and consumption.
What she's saying is that she doesn't want to pay the fees for the public record request. She would like them to be publicly available on the website, so
understand
she
that.
doesn't have to. Right?
I understand she wants them easily accessible.
But you know,
That's
Well,
an
I
issue.
think if we have an annual report dated back for right now for 6 years,
yeah, we are up
Right.
to 6 years back.
and our minutes go back.
I don't know.
2014.
Where do the minutes go back to, Linda?
2017
2017?
on the web right now. Yes.
On the web right now, and the external auditor report
Is not available at all.
not available on the website. That can be requested. I don't think there's a need really to make that change. I think it is a huge undertaking, and I think you can appreciate that, Marlena, of trying to put on the website all of that information. I think it's a monster undertaking to put that onto a website, and then
It's the fees to pay our web designer as
Right.
well to do all of the uploading. And the space.
right, and it's not.
And here's the thing as well is that just
So that's a hard no. Thank you. I do have another request. There's a NEMRIC report that can be run monthly. It can be run daily. It could be run weekly. But I'm requesting as a citizen if the select board would request this report and again put it out on the website monthly for taxpayer review. It's a NEMRIC report that does a breakdown of all adjusting journal entries that shows detailed alterations to accounts after they've been authorized and approved. I think that's something that the taxpayers should be able to see in full transparency. Again, I don't know what it's called, but I'm sure the NEMRIC professionals know what report that is. And then tonight, it was, let me finish, please. May I please finish? Tonight, it was mentioned that you're going to start putting the packets out on the website for public review, which I think is great. Could the warrants also be posted out for public review, less obviously any personal confidential information?
Oh, that's account numbers, that's credit card numbers,
No,
that's.
absolutely not. You should know that, Marlena. You've been on the board.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
But they're available for public review.
If you come into the office,
If you
but
come
they
into
can't,
the office.
they can't be placed where the copy of them could leave the office.
Tons and tons and tons of staff time, cost. I'm sorry, no. Thank you. You have a good night. We're moving on.
You too. Thank you so much. You guys are so kind. Appreciate your time.
Anybody else out there? Please raise your hand. No? There's nobody else out there?
Somebody's in the chat.
If they're raising their hand or.
Please raise your hand if you have something that you'd like to ask.
Make
Okay,
a motion,
Okay.
we move to executive session
second.
We did statewide
for legal.
contract.
Legal,
Contractual,
contractual. And we will not be making, we
won't be taking any action.
no
No,
action.
we'll be taking no
So we will
action.
be taking no action tonight. Thank you to everybody that was on and asked questions. Have a good night.
Thank you.